Marvel Rivals has a lot of story, and it is my job to catch you up so you can keep playing the game. Every single hero in this game has their own story of multiple chapters. We have gallery cards, we have comic books, and we cover it all here in this timeline. So you better buckle up, buckaroo, because this one is going to be very exciting. We're going over Season 0, Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. If you appreciate all the work I'm doing for you, please leave a like on the video. And while you're down there, please go in the comments as well. Let me know what your favorite map is on the game so far. For me personally, I'm a big fan of the Asgard domination map. Specifically, my favorite singular map in the game is Bifrost Garden. That's my favorite. Let me know what yours is. If you want to support the channel even further, super thanks for this video are available. And if you want to become a YouTube channel member, you could do so as well. If you want to listen to these stories as a podcast, this timeline is also available on all of your major podcast platforms. And with all of that said, I think it is about that time. Doctor Doom visits Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, seeking forbidden knowledge to manipulate time itself. Doom requests access to the Darkhold, an evil magical book, and he wants it specifically for the vampiric verses, which he believes can help Doctor Doom bend time like Dracula once did. Doctor Strange, of course, refuses this, knowing the Darkhold's corruptive power, leading Doctor Doom to then attack with dark magic. A battle of sorcery ensues, with Doctor Strange using powerful mystical attacks like the Crimson Thorns of Yggdrasil to restrain Doom. Knowing that he was beat, Doctor Doom surrenders, as Doctor Strange releases Doom, trusting his word that he had surrendered and he will leave peacefully. But Doctor Doom vows that he will find one way or another to conquer time. And before departing, Doom warns Doctor Strange of an impending great evil that will engulf the city in darkness. To keep the Darkhold safe, Doctor Strange then banishes it to a hidden corner of the astral plane, just beyond Doom's reach. And months later, Doctor Strange senses a massive disturbance in time and space itself, seemingly originating from the nation of Latveria. The disturbance tears through dimensions, including the astral plane, and heads straight for Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. Strange only has a moment to act, knowing this decision could determine the fate of countless universes. The God of the Moon, Khonshu, abruptly summons Mark Spector, the Moon Knight, mid-battle, pulling him into the divine space for an urgent mission. But before they talk for too long, Doctor Doom arrives unexpectedly in this divine space. How did he get here? Khonshu nor Moon Knight know. But Doctor Doom is here seeking Khonshu's help in shrouding a city in eternal night to study the vampiric verses and manipulate time. Khonshu orders Moon Knight to get Doom out of this space, so Moon Knight battles Doctor Doom, but Doctor Doom overpowers him using the daggers of Dormammu, forcing Khonshu to intervene. Doctor Doom then reveals that the vampires originated from an ancient Darkhold curse, and he believes their magic holds the key to controlling time. Doom proposes using Khonshu's power to trap the city of New York in permanent darkness, making it a vampire breeding ground for his experiments. Khonshu refuses, warning of an even greater coming darkness that could threaten gods and mortals alike. Khonshu then banishes Doctor Doom from the divine space, but Doom vows to find another way to achieve his goal. With Doctor Doom now gone, Khonshu now seeks the Montesi formula, a spell in the Darkhold that could erase all vampires permanently. Moon Knight is then tasked with protecting New York City while preparing for the inevitable war against the vampire hordes. As Moon Knight returns to New York City, Moon Knight swings into action, knowing that his white costume will not stay clean for long, with his battle shortly ahead. The first gallery card is Let There Be Rivals, which is a passage written by Dr. Doom 2099. Now, Dr. Doom says he tried to control time itself, viewing it as the last true shackle on humanity's path to godhood. He says he forged a cage for time, reshaping reality and history like building blocks. However, despite his power, Doom was ultimately outwitted by time itself, which reshaped itself and resisted Doom's control. Now, there are multiple versions of Dr. Doom. This one in 2099 and another one that he mentions, and he's very critical of this other one. Says he's more reckless, one from a distant past, a distant reality. And now the timeline has been catastrophically damaged by both of the Dooms doing their time experiments. Their meddling triggered a chrono catastrophe, which has sent a wave of destructive energy tearing across the entirety of the multiverse. And the multiverse is now split into chronoverses, which are fractured timelines where some realities collapse, merge, or just flat out vanish. Now, Dr. Doom 2099, he is feeling superior and bitter as he sees himself as the one who must now manage the consequences of the catastrophe. He has no respect for the version of Dr. Doom that's in the past. Surprisingly though, Dr. Doom, a man of action, he chooses a different path. Instead of acting directly as he usually does, Dr. Doom plans to manipulate heroes across dimensions to fix the multiverse for him, because this man sees them as useful pawns for his grander plan to take over the multiverse. Next up, we got your biggest rival, which is coming from the perspective of Galacta. Now, she starts off by saying that the voice you hear while you're playing the game is her, Galacta, daughter of Galactus, as she's acting as a narrator, as a fan, as an occasional cheerleader. Now, Galacta, of course, has inherited Galactus's cosmic hunger, but instead of eating inhabited worlds, she tries to control her cravings by eating cosmic constructs, which brings her to her new favorite snack, Chronovium. It's a crystal made out of pure chrono energy generated by the time stream entanglement, which is a multiversal crisis that is threatening to collapse all realities. With this threat, Galacta has preserved a handful of timelines, which serves as maintaining a steady chronovium supply and delay the total collapse of the multiverse itself. Now, as all of this is unfolding, her role is more passive. She's watching these events rather than directly interfering, at least for now. For now, the heroes and villains across the multiverse are fighting over how to fix reality themselves, each with their own different ideas, causing major conflicts across timelines. Galacta is watching all of this unfold like her own personal drama-filled TV show, snacking on chronovium like popcorn, having a great time with a dinner and a show. Wanda Maximoff, the sorceress supreme of her universe, maintains the delicate balance of reality, preventing it from collapsing due to magical conflicts. She is contacted by an astral projection of Dr. Stephen Strange from another reality, who is trapped due to the time stream entanglement. Strange warns Wanda of Dracula's rising power, revealing that he has performed a blood ritual to imprison New York City in eternal night. Dracula seeks to use the Darkhold's forbidden spells to make vampires immune to sunlight, turning all humanity into their prey. Dr. Strange introduces Wanda to a mysterious material called chronovium, which is a side effect of Victor Von Doom's time experiments. Wanda realizes she has been too focused on maintaining her reality's stability and decides to take a more active role in the battle. The Darkhold is currently in the hands of Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god, who plans to use a powerful spell to wipe out all vampires permanently. Dr. Strange plans to challenge Khonshu to a game of chess to win back the Darkhold, as the god of the moon is known to enjoy games of skill. So the Scarlet Witch agrees to help Strange return to his reality if he retrieves the Darkhold. But secretly, Wanda desires to master its power for herself. So, If Strange refuses to share its secrets once they get the Darkhold, Wanda is willing to unleash her own chaos to restore order to her universe at any cost. Bruce Banner develops the Gamma Belt, a device that is designed to control his Hulk transformations and potentially regulate his power. He tests the belt in his lab, activating it to trigger a controlled transformation into the Hulk, hoping it will allow for stability and measured strength. Now, once he is transformed into the Hulk performs some strength tests, including a thunderclap that accidentally causes a massive shockwave, collapsing a canyon wall and nearly burying himself. The Gamma Belt protects the Hulk by generating a force field, preventing debris from touching him, something that Banner had not yet anticipated. The Hulk realizes the belt refuels itself as he exerts power, creating a feedback loop that keeps increasing his gamma levels, making him even stronger. Embracing this newfound power, the Hulk deliberately pushes the belt further, leaping and smashing a car mid-air and absorbing more gamma energy. Now, Bruce Banner's consciousness warns Hulk that it's too much gamma buildup, and if they keep going, it could have catastrophic consequences. But the Hulk simply ignores puny Banner. The Hulk, reveling in his new strength, destroys the lab in a frenzy, smashing equipment and causing structural collapse to prove his dominance over Bruce Banner. Now, a stray fragment damages the Gamma Belt, instantly reverting Hulk back into Bruce, leaving him surrounded by all of the wreckage. Though shaken by the destruction, Bruce Banner is intrigued by the experiment's results and vows to continue refining his work, realizing there is so much more to learn about this Gamma Belt. Hela, the Queen of Hell herself, senses the shattering of realities caused by the time stream entanglement, and she seeks to exploit the disruption for her own power. She learns of an element named chronovium, a material formed from temporal disturbances, and gathers samples from across different realms. Each one of them are slightly different in nature. A lost soul in Hell reveals knowledge of Celestials and their vast power, fueling Hela's ambition to claim them for herself and expand her dominion beyond Asgard and the 10 realms itself. Suddenly, a symbiote emissary arrives in Hell, sent by the King in Black, Null, the ancient god of darkness, as he is demanding a celestial soul that has entered Hell's realm. Hela refuses to surrender the Celestial, asserting her rule over Hell and threatening Null with eternal servitude should he challenge her. After listening and realizing that Null is currently in prison, she deduces that Hell can now reach his realm, Clintar, potentially allowing her to invade it directly. She begins experimenting with Hell-infused chronovium, seeking to expand her dominion not just through space, but through all of time itself. Hela's goal is to make Hell a force that absorbs all souls, past and future, ensuring that even beings from different timelines will be bound to her rule. She anticipates Null's retaliation, but she welcomes it, knowing that any who enter Hell, god or mortal, will ultimately belong to her. With her growing power over time itself, Hela commands the chronovium to reveal the future, as she already claims dominion over the past. The god of mischief, Loki, discovers that Yggdrasil's sap now holds a new temporal magic, a result of the time stream entanglement, and begins experimenting with it. Using the sap's magic, he peers into multiple future versions of Asgard, seeing endless versions of the realm in ruin, except for a single one, where Loki rules as king. Determined to bring this future to pass, Loki plots to seize the throne of Asgard, planning to place his father, Odin, into Odin's sleep and manipulate his brother Thor into exile. With this plan, Loki knows that he needs allies, so he seeks out Karnilla, the Queen of the Norns, to ensure fate remains in his favor. Additionally, Loki also approaches his sister Hela, believing her vast allegiance will help secure the throne, though he knows that she will demand something in return. So, Loki arrives in Hell unannounced to annoy Hela as he presents his case to her, but she is skeptical, recognizing that all of his plans ultimately serve his own ambition. And this is where Loki reveals the secret of Yggdrasil's sap, demonstrating its ability to glimpse into the future and offering Hela a vision of her own destiny. Hela sees something within the vision that intrigues her, prompting her to agree to an alliance, but only and only if Loki helps her achieve her own goals with Chronovium. Loki agrees, though he fully intends to betray her later, yet he cannot be sure whether this particular deception will ultimately prove true or false. With Hela's forces potentially at his disposal, Loki's schemes for the throne of Asgard advance, but the true consequences of meddling with time will remain uncertain. The god of thunder, Thor Odinson, is currently imprisoned in the Tower of Solitude by his brother Loki, who has usurped the throne of Asgard through deception and powerful new magic. Thor's magical hammer Mjolnir smashes through the tower's walls, freeing Thor from this prison, who immediately flies to confront Loki and reclaim Asgard. Thor discovers Loki harvesting Yggdrasil's sap, rich in a new element called Chronovium, using its power to enhance his magic and possibly forge powerful weapons. Thor and Loki clash on the palace plaza, but Loki reveals that he has anticipated Thor's escape and has already allied with their sister. And that's when Hela arrives with an army of the dead infused with Chronovium, overwhelming Thor as Loki watches smugly. Despite his best efforts, Thor cannot hold off the endless legions, and Hela ultimately restrains him with a powerful spell. Loki declares that Asgard is now his, claiming that Odin has abandoned it and that he alone can reshape the fractured realms. Meanwhile, Hela, revealing her own ambitions, casts Thor into an unknown realm, ensuring that he cannot interfere with either of their plans. Thor then crash lands in a mysterious red-hued desert on Midgard, only to be immediately attacked by a gamma-infused, even stronger version of the Hulk, wearing some strange belt. Thor eventually disables Hulk's power-enhancing belt, reverting him back to Bruce Banner, who is shocked to see Thor and reveals that people have been searching for Thor for a long, long time. Thor, however, only cares about one thing right now: getting back to Asgard, and he needs Bruce Banner's help. Next up, we have family affairs being told from the perspective of the Asgardian messenger Squirrel, known as Ratatoskar. Now, Ratatoskar is writing a letter warning of chaos spreading through Yggdrasil and the 10 realms. Odin has fallen into a deep slumber, leaving Loki to seize the throne of Asgard and reshape it in his image. Now, a cosmic chronal surge disrupted time and space, mutating Yggdrasil and Asgard into a merged realm called Isgard, a fusion of the ancient and the new. Loki seeks to drain Yggdrasil's sap, which now contains raw, temporal power, likely to manipulate time for his own gain. Meanwhile, Hela, the Queen of the Dead, allied with Loki in exchange for expanding her dominion into the land of the living, but her true goals may be far more sinister than that. With Hela's aid, Loki banished Thor Odinson to a distant dimension, leaving Asgard defenseless and under their control. Ratatoskar calls on others to rise up and reclaim Isgard before Loki's actions doom all 10 realms, and possibly all reality. The Black Panther, King T'Challa, reflects on the success of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, a fusion of science and tradition that has spread across the stars. The Wakandan gods, known collectively as the Orisha, have fallen mysteriously silent. Even Bast, the Panther goddess who chose T'Challa as her champion, has not talked to him in a while. Wakanda is at war with two versions of Doctor Doom from different timelines, both of them seeking control of the fractured time stream. While praying for guidance, T'Challa is unexpectedly answered by Kalunia, the banished sister of Bast, who warns T'Challa of a growing darkness in the universe. The Black Panther distrusts Kalunia but begins to fear that the Orisha themselves may have been corrupted by this unknown force. Meanwhile, Princess Shuri, T'Challa's sister, urges T'Challa to allow Wakanda's Vibranium Chronovium to be used in the time stream reintegration device, but he refuses. T'Challa believes that Wakanda's greatest resource is not its vibranium, is not its infused vibranium with chronovium, it is Shuri herself, and entrusts her with leading the scientific efforts. Shuri accepts T'Challa's orders, although she is very frustrated by them. And while reflecting on his next move, T'Challa finally hears from Bast, but her voice is different. It's laced with an unsettling darkness. She cryptically tells him that he is not the only, quote-unquote, king in black that she has favored, as dark energy begins consuming the Hall of Jalia. Determined to protect Wakanda at all costs, the King T'Challa rushes towards the danger, prepared to defy even the gods themselves in order to protect the people of Wakanda, because that is the only thing he cares about. Wakanda forever. Next up is blind devotion. King T'Challa, the Black Panther, after hearing concerns from Shuri, his sister, about the corruption of Bast, the Panther goddess, begins to travel spiritually to the astral plane, known as Jalia, seeking answers. Upon arrival, he finds Jalia deserted and lifeless, indicating something has gone deeply wrong. Through meditation and communication with Bast, he discovers that the goddess has indeed become corrupted. Bast then demands absolute loyalty and violent devotion from King T'Challa, promising him unlimited power if he serves only her and destroys all opposition. T'Challa then experiences a disturbing vision of the heart-shaped herb glowing a fiery crimson rather than its normal purple glow, symbolizing Bast's corruption. He breaks the connection with Bast, horrified by the twisted, warped reflection of the Panther goddess, stained with darkness and evil. T'Challa returns to the physical plane, awakening before a statue of Bast, which briefly shines with an ominous glow, reinforcing his fears of what has become. Resolute and defiant, King T'Challa vows to cleanse Bast of this darkness, pledging to save both his goddess and Wakanda from this mysterious corruption. Next up is Of Gods and Guardians, which is basically just a private log for Princess Shuri. And Shuri privately confesses that she has lost all faith in the Wakandan gods, especially Bast, the Panther goddess. Wakanda's intergalactic empire is in crisis currently, as their deities remain silent despite fervent prayers from their people. T'Challa, Shuri's brother and king of Wakanda, continues desperately reaching out to Bast without success, unaware that the goddess has spoken directly to Shuri, but in a disturbing way. In Shuri's visions, Bast's voice is sinister and corrupted, prompting fears that she may manipulate T'Challa's loyalty to unleash darkness upon Wakanda. Shuri's suspicion is considered blasphemous and dangerous. Thus, she keeps these revelations secret and cautious. Alongside the crisis of faith that Shuri is having, she investigates the cosmic mystery of the time stream entanglement and chronovibranium, which is a vibranium-infused version of chronovium. Upon learning of this darkness and such, Shuri asks the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate a dark energy surge at the universe's edge, near the planet of Clintar, which is the homeworld of the symbiote species. Upon approaching Clintar, though, the Guardians' communication was abruptly lost, suggesting they may be encountering the same corruptive force that is affecting Bast and the rest of the gods. With divine help unavailable currently, Shuri realizes that she must rely on trusted allies and herself to protect Wakanda and the universe from impending danger. Sensing the cosmic disruption of the time stream entanglement, Adam Warlock instinctively retreats into his regenerative cocoon, drifting through space. He is then telepathically contacted by a weakened Odin, who is trapped in the Odin sleep after Loki usurped Asgard and transformed it into Isgard. Odin warns Adam Warlock of an ancient, creeping darkness beyond Loki's schemes, one powerful enough to corrupt entire realities. Adam Warlock then encounters Bast, the Wakandan Panther goddess, who reveals that realities are now merging and ominously refers to a coming feast. Then, a dying Celestial reaches out to Adam Warlock, warning him that before the Celestials, there was a primordial being of absolute darkness, a force even they could not stop. The Celestial named the entity as Null, the King in Black, revealing that he was slain by Null's sword and that his corpse still carries Null's corruption. As Adam Warlock tries to resist, Null himself enters his mind, dragging him through space towards his domain. Before Null can fully ensnare him though, a brilliant burst of cosmic fire, the Phoenix Force, briefly blinds Adam Warlock's cocoon, offering a flicker of hope. Adam Warlock then crash lands on Clintar, the living planet of the symbiotes, realizing it is both Null's former throne and the prison where his own followers once sealed him away. Breaking free from his cocoon, Adam Warlock vows to prevent Null's resurgence, ensuring that light will shine in the end. Venom awakens in a war-torn nether realm, having escaped imprisonment by Magik in Limbo, who warns him that the realm is in an endless battle between the gods and the demons. A sudden agonizing vision from the Clintar hive mind reveals something ancient and evil. The King in Black, Null, has awakened and threatens all of existence. Determined to stop Null, Venom realizes he must find All Black, the Necrosword, the legendary weapon that Null once used to slay an entire Celestial. So Magik helps Venom by using her mutant teleportation ability to open a portal, sending him across the galaxy to the remains of the fallen Celestial where the sword may be hidden. Venom finds the Necrosword embedded in the Celestial's corpse, its darkness pulsing with ancient power, but no matter how hard he tries, he cannot pull it free. Unbeknownst to Venom, Adam Warlock's cosmic cocoon drifts nearby, awakening the Celestial's remnants, which release a psionic shockwave that hurls Venom into space. Venom crash lands on Clintar, the symbiote homeworld, where he is embraced by his kin, only to realize that Null's influence is already creeping through the planet. Nearby, Venom discovers Warlock's cocoon, which the symbiotes are preparing to consume, but before they can, Venom tears it open to reveal Adam Warlock inside. Mistaking Venom for an agent of darkness, Adam Warlock immediately attacks, forcing Venom to defend himself while trying to explain their shared goal. Realizing their common enemy, Adam Warlock and Venom reluctantly agree to an alliance, both now fully committed to stopping Null before he can plunge the universe into eternal darkness. After the Milano ship crashes on an unknown planet, Groot wanders off, avoiding Rocket and Star-Lord's argument, and finds himself drawn to an eerie voice from the jungle. The jungle plants, part plant and part symbiote, warn Groot to leave, claiming they will hurt him if he gets too close. But Groot responds with kindness, confusing all of them. Groot realizes the symbiote plants have never known trust or friendship, and tries to teach them that strength comes from unity, not just survival. A massive explosion erupts from the crashed ships, spreading fire through the jungle, terrifying the symbiotic plants who cannot escape. Determined to save them, Groot extends his roots beneath the wreckage, overturning the ships to smother the flames, creating a firebreak and protecting the jungle. The plants are now grateful, and they reveal that Rocket has wandered into an old complex, now engulfed in flames, so Groot rushes to save his best friend. Inside the complex, Groot finds Rocket trapped behind an energy barrier while monstrous black symbiotes swarm the corridors, trying to reach him. Despite being overwhelmed, Groot fights back, and the jungle plants, now his allies, intervene, using their symbiotic abilities to consume the attacking creatures. With Rocket safe now, Groot proudly shows him the plants that helped guide him. Though Rocket is horrified that he even trusted a symbiote to begin with, but Rocket and Groot then return to the Milano, carrying the energy barrier as a tool to repair the ship, while Groot reflects on the power of friendship, even on a hostile world like Clintar. After Star-Lord crashes the Milano ship on Clintar, Rocket searches a massive ship graveyard for salvageable parts to repair the ship. He quickly realizes he's being watched and is soon ambushed by monstrous symbiote creatures with claws and fangs. Rocket flees into an eerie complex of ancient buildings, dropping a miniature gravity well behind him to annihilate some of his pursuers. Inside, he discovers advanced containment and weapons technology, realizing the place may have been a prison or a lab meant to control the symbiotes. As he scavenges for parts, the facility's automated defenses activate, nearly frying Rocket before symbiotes destroy the turrets. Rocket fights his way to a small, secure side room in the facility, where he discovers a powerful Xandarian energy barrier projector, perfect for fortifying his position. Hot-wiring the barrier with salvaged quantum circuits, he successfully activates it, trapping the symbiotes outside while allowing him to fire through it. Realizing that he can repurpose this technology to repair the Milano's engines, he devises a plan to escape with the components he needs. However, with more symbiotes gathering and the facility's doors starting to give way, Rocket prepares for one last desperate fight. Blaster charged and ready, he stands his ground, waiting for Groot, or anyone, to show up before he makes his next move. After crash landing the Milano ship on Clintar, Star-Lord Peter Quill defends the ship from attacking symbiotes while Rocket and Groot search for parts. He notices that the symbiotes on Clintar are different, bonded to various alien species, and far more aggressive than usual. An explosion in the ship graveyard draws most of the symbiotes away, giving Quill a temporary reprieve to repair the Milano. Hours later, Rocket and Groot return with scavenged technology, including a vital energy barrier system that could stabilize the ship. Star-Lord unveils his plan to escape, using a Celestial's corpse in orbit as an anchor for a quantum displacement swap, a technique inspired by the Negabands. Rocket Raccoon, initially skeptical of this plan, realizes the plan might actually work, but warns that they need a force-dampening matrix to survive the swap. And Groot, with the help of Clintar's symbiotic plants, unknowingly gathered the exact piece of tech they needed. So they activate the quantum swap, briefly entering the negative zone, where they come face to face with the floating celestial corpse. Now at this point, the scanners they have start to reveal movement within the corpse, and Star-Lord, of course, panicking when he sees this, forces them back to Clintar, but not before glimpsing a mysterious symbiote figure in a glowing cocoon. Though Rocket and Groot are frustrated with his rash decisions, Peter Quill remains confident that his leadership saved them, while the Celestial's corpse still looms ominously above. Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, infiltrates Alchemax's Tokyo headquarters in the year 2099, searching for a classified Mercury-level asset. Black Widow expertly navigates the building's high-tech security, including laser traps and elite guards, in order to reach a heavily restricted underground vault. Inside this vault, she discovers encrypted files referencing an old super soldier serum, as well as Krakoan flowers and surveillance photos of herself and Nick Fury. At the center of the room, she finds a massive, frozen crystal containing a mysterious human figure, the asset she is here searching for. Initiating the thawing process on this crystal, she is absolutely stunned as she sees a man in red, white, and blue emerge. It is Captain America, Steve Rogers, frozen since World War II. A disoriented Captain America immediately wakes up and asks about the Red Skull, only to learn from Natasha that the Red Skull has been dead for over 50 years. Before both of them can process the situation, the Public Eye security force storm the chamber, forcing Natasha and Cap to fight their way out. As they reach the building's lobby, they are confronted by a massive Public Eye mech, which Cap takes down using a piece of its armor as a makeshift shield. However, the mech activates a self-destruct sequence, causing a massive explosion. Cap shields Natasha from the blast, but vanishes in the aftermath. The Black Widow escapes into the night, her mission incomplete, but for the first time in decades, Natasha feels something unexpected. She feels hope. The X-Men, known as the Wolverine, shares his recent adventures over a drink at Krakoa's Green Lagoon bar, reflecting on the chaos caused by the time stream entanglement. Krakoa was displaced to the year 2099, where Magneto has transformed it into a sanctuary for displaced mutants, though tensions remain over Logan's work with human resistance fighters. The Wolverine recounts how he searched for the Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, in Tokyo, only to find Captain America, Steve Rogers, freshly thawed from a mysterious Alchemax lab under attack by Doombots, created by, of course, Dr. Doom. Wolverine and Captain America fought side by side, taking down the Doombots, but Logan realized hiding Cap on Krakoa could put all mutants in danger. So, with the goal of keeping Captain America safe, he then brings Cap to a resistant safe house, as the Wolverine then used Krakoan medicinal flowers to help Captain America recover from his long stasis and battle injuries. Steve Rogers, then eager to fight alongside Wolverine against tyranny once more, offered to join the resistance, but Logan warned that his presence would draw too much attention to what they are doing. Instead, Wolverine devised a plan to send Captain America to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, where the Black Panther, King T'Challa, has been seeking allies against an ominous coming threat across the universe. So then, using a Chemio bead gifted to the Resistance, Logan led Captain America to a Wakandan embassy in Tokyo, where a portal then opened to Wakanda's empire. Captain America then saluted over to the Wolverine as the portal closes as he steps through, disappearing into the unknown future, leaving Wolverine to resume his search for the Black Widow. Now, as Logan finished his drink here on this bar, Magneto reflects on the story he had just heard and reflects on the growing list of potential allies in this new era, considering a partnership with humans, while Logan knows that his next mission is just beginning. In the year 2099, the Yoshida Corporation prepares to sell high-tech weapons to a rising New York crime syndicate called the Castiglions. Now, their representative, Johnny Tower, turns out to be Frank Castle, the legendary Punisher, and kills Shuri Yoshida on the spot. The rest of the Yoshida guards unload their weapons into Castle, but he survives, revealing his iconic white skull symbol underneath his tattered shirt. Before Frank Castle can finish off the remaining Ishida forces, though, Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, intervenes, demanding he let them go. The Punisher is shocked to see that Natasha is still alive after more than a century, and the two realize they both have undergone anti-aging treatments. Natasha reveals that she recently freed Captain America Steve Rogers from a secret Alchemax facility, but since then they were separated. Captain America has vanished. Now, their conversation about this is cut short as the public eye has soldiers storm the warehouse, forcing them to fight side by side. Now, the Punisher, known for his lethal methods, surprisingly holds back and uses non-lethal force at Natasha's insistence. And then after the fight, Castle realizes that Natasha had lured the public eye there on purpose to test his loyalty. And this puts a strain on their already fragile trust between one another. However, despite their differences, Frank Castle agrees that if they want to find Captain America and take down Doctor Doom, they will need to start trusting each other. Next up, we have Hydra's Hymn, which is told through a conversation between two Hydra agents. Now, this story takes place at the Chitaris base, which is a top secret Hydra facility hidden inside a mountain in Antarctica, considered one of Hydra's most important operation centers. The base is involved in both super soldier experiments and occult operations, blending science and mysticism. The Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, was captured and brought to the base, supposedly for reconditioning and stasis. Before that could happen, though, Hydra's mysterious occult ops division claimed him, a faction within Hydra that mixes cosmic horror and mystic rites. Occult Ops is attempting to open a portal to Maveth, which is a dead planet on the far side of the universe. They believe unlocking this gateway is the key to Hydra's ultimate ascension. Now, the Winter Soldier is believed to be a potential conduit for assessing Maveth, possibly because of his path or unique physiology. Whichever it is, they want Bucky Barnes. Hydra's priests chant an alien hymn, a ritual believed to grant access to ancient, otherworldly forces beyond human comprehension. One of these agents having this conversation is skeptical, insisting Hydra's strength lies in science, while the other agent is increasingly convinced that the supernatural is real and powerful. Hawkeye, real name Clint Barton, is assigned a solo mission to infiltrate a Hydra base in Antarctica's Ross Island to rescue the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Now, Agent 13 pilots a Quinjet and briefs Clint on the mission, revealing that Bucky infiltrated the base 3 days ago, but he lost communication after just 8 hours. The base is built on ancient ruins beneath the Iberus ice shelf, and Hydra is conducting both super soldier research and occult experiments. Clint Barton begins to reflect on his time as Ronin in the past, acknowledging that while he once walked a darker path, he needs to be Hawkeye again, and he needs to stay grounded. He prepares for the mission, selecting a mix of explosive, bladed, and non-lethal arrows, as well as his twin swords. Agent 13 then warns Clint that if Bucky is beyond saving, Hawkeye's priority should be to retrieve intel and escape. As the Quinjet nears the drop zone, Hawkeye pushes aside his doubts, determined to bring Bucky home. Now, a vehicle will be waiting for him at the landing site, but the safest approach is through the upper levels of the base. Despite intel recommending he avoid the lower levels, Clint and Barton suspect there may be supernatural threats hidden below. With the cargo door open, Hawkeye takes a deep breath, steadies himself, and jumps into the Antarctic night, ready to face whatever awaits him. The entire world mourns the reported death of Captain America. while Hydra agents stationed at an Antarctic base discuss their secret experiments and the time stream entanglement. Suddenly, Hawkeye infiltrates the base, eliminating the Hydra guards and navigating the underground facility to locate the captive Winter Soldier. He finds Bucky in a containment tank labeled Canary, but is attacked by a monstrous Hydra super soldier before he could free Bucky. As Hawkeye struggles, Bucky awakens, revealing a shocking transformation. His cybernetic arm has been replaced with eldritch tentacles. With his new monstrous limb, Bucky kills the Hydra soldier and escapes the tank, but he insists on completing a mission before leaving. Hawkeye and the Winter Soldier descend deeper into the facility, discovering an ancient chamber with a massive portal. Hydra has been trying to summon something from the great beyond. Bucky connects his tentacles to the altar, triggering a surge of power, but realizing he must sever his corrupted arm in order to stop the ritual. At Bucky's command, Hawkeye cuts off the tentacle limb, causing a massive shockwave that collapses the chamber and shuts the portal. As all hope seems lost, the portal reactivates, with Captain America, Steve Rogers, emerging, deflecting debris with his shield and rescuing Hawkeye and Bucky. Cap then explains that he is from another timeline and has brought them to Wakanda's intergalactic empire, where Bucky receives a new cybernetic arm before Cap asks him for a favor in return. Captain America, Steve Rogers, a man displaced in both time and space, finds himself in a futuristic intergalactic empire of Wakanda. As he reflects on how much the world has changed, he reunites with Hawkeye and watches over the injured Bucky Barnes, unsure of how much of his old friend remains after Hydra's latest experiments. Captain America recounts his past, how he was frozen, thawed out in 2099 by Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, in an Alchemax lab, and later aided by Logan, the Wolverine, to escape to Wakanda. Now, the Black Panther, King T'Challa, and his sister Shuri welcomed Steve into Wakanda, revealing the time stream entanglement's effects on reality, and also asking Captain America to gather elite warriors for an impending war. Steve chose Bucky as his first recruit, unknowingly saving both him and Hawkeye from certain deaths inside Hydra's collapsing Antarctic base. Now, as Steve and Clint discuss their next steps, Bucky suddenly wakes up in agony, his new cybernetic arm mutating again as dark forces whisper inside of his mind. Possessed by an unknown eldritch force, Bucky attacks, forcing Steve and Clint to lure him into an open space for a safer confrontation. Now, Princess Shuri devises a way to reset Bucky's corrupted arm, using Hawkeye's perfect aim to land a chemio bead arrow on a precise point on his cybernetic limb. The shot is successful. Bucky collapses, freed from the dark force's control, though the princess suggests more tests to understand what happened to him. With his allies by his side, Steve Rogers, Captain America, finally feels a sense of belonging in this strange new world, ready to face the battles ahead together. Dr. Victor Von Doom visiting Dracula as he offers him a rare crystal known as chronovium, born from the time stream entanglement, which of course is the result of Dr. Doom and his future counterpart, Dr. Doom 2099, messing with the fabric of space-time. Dr. Doom proposes combining Dracula's immortal blood with chronovium to freeze New York City in eternal night, offering it as Dracula's empire. Now, Dracula is a bit hesitant, so then Dr. Doom promises access to the Vampiric Verses, which is a page of the Darkhold, which would allow vampires to walk freely during the daylight. This is an offer that Dracula simply can't refuse. He agrees, giving Dr. Doom a drop of his blood to begin the spell. Dracula has trapped New York City in eternal night, unleashing his vampire army on its citizens. Cloak and Dagger fight to protect the city, but things have changed for them. Because during a cosmic event known as the Time Stream Entanglement, Cloak and Dagger were caught mid-teleportation, causing their bodies to merge into one physical unit, meaning only one of them can physically exist at any given time. The Fantastic Four's Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, confirms their molecular fusion, as he explains that they are entangled at a subatomic level, allowing only one of them to manifest while the other remains simply a voice in their partner's head. Cloak notices Dagger becoming more ruthless as the time goes on, while he is growing more merciful, reversing their usual roles. Meanwhile, Reed Richards and the Iron Man Tony Stark argue over how to handle the vampire crisis in New York City. Reed Richards develops a prototype version of the Time Stream reintegration device that may restore Cloak and Dagger to separate bodies, but the process is risky and untested. So Reed gives them a warning, and Dagger completely ignores Cloak's hesitation and forces the experiment to go through, successfully restoring their separate forms. But Reed warns that their energy signals are still connected, meaning teleportation could re-entangle them. So, leaving the Fantastic Four's Baxter building, Cloak and Dagger head into a battle against vampires on a ferry. But on that ferry, a trap has separated them, leaving Dagger outnumbered with no escape. Cloak chooses to teleport to save her on the ferry, knowing it would cause them to merge once again, but he refuses to let Dagger die. Cloak successfully rescues Dagger and the civilians on the ferry, but just as they feared, they are now re-entangled. Dagger is once again trapped inside Cloak, only able to communicate through his mind. Despite the setback, Cloak promises to lead Dagger through the darkness as she has always guided him back to the light, proving that even though they are at odds right now, they are still a team. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, is studying a chronovium crystal as he makes an interdimensional call to an alternate version of Princess Shuri of Wakanda. And as the two are talking about chronovium and are talking about the time stream reintegration device that they've worked on, Princess Shuri introduces the term chronoverses as they begin to find out the time stream entanglement has created branching alternate realities. So far, they know of at least 4 known realities, due to both of them having varying degrees of interactions with these alternate people, such as Shuri now teaming up with an alternate version of Captain America, who was not awoken from his ice until the year 2099. Additionally, Shuri is also working alongside displaced heroes like the Wolverine, the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye. And they're sitting here, they have a whole gang of interdimensional heroes. Meanwhile, Shuri goes on and she says she has felt a darkness going around the universe, so she sent the Guardians of the Galaxy to the planet of Clintar to investigate. But since arriving, they have gone silent. And on top of all of that, about a week ago, Shuri sent her brother, the Black Panther, King T'Challa, with a heart-shaped herb to Reed Richards' universe in order to potentially use that herb to cure the vampires in New York City. The only problem is, it's been a week. Reed Richards has no knowledge of Black Panther arriving. Where is the Black Panther? The Black Panther is in New York City after recently arriving through a portal from the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, as he arrives with the heart-shaped herb in hopes to cure the vampires of New York City. However, as he's walking, trying to find the Baxter building, Black Panther is ambushed by vampires and manipulated by Dracula, who uses a blood-infused chronovium crystal to begin transforming him into a vampire. Dracula fails to bite T'Challa due to his vibranium suit, so Dracula instead tries to magically enslave him. And you already know, T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, the Black Panther, is going to fight back, and he does for a while, and he escapes Dracula's grasp. However, he was not able to avoid becoming a vampire. The Black Panther is now roaming the streets with a thirst for blood, disconnected from Bast and the other Orisha gods, as now he is in New York City, no longer the Black Panther, now a vampire, conflicted about using the heart-shaped herb on himself or not. The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, patrols Dracula's New York City every single night, burning vampires and keeping the area around the Baxter Building clear. Human Torch's defiance makes him Dracula's top target, with the Vampire Lord sending his best lieutenants after him specifically, but none of them can handle Johnny's superheated plasma form. And one night, while sweeping Madison Avenue, Johnny witnesses an explosion and a massive rock-like creature emerge from underground. Realizing that it is one of Mole Man's deviant mutates, but now it's a vampire, Johnny Storm attempts to burn it, but the flames have absolutely no effect on its stone body. As the creature rampages towards the Baxter Building, the Thing, Ben Grimm, arrives to the scene to help, but even his strength struggles against the monstrous vampire. And then a few moments later, they are aided by Spider-Man, who swings in, uses his webbing to hold the creature in place while Johnny Storm devises a risky plan to collapse the street beneath the monster. Johnny then baits the creature into lunging at him while Ben rips Spider-Man's web from its anchor, dropping the monster into its original underground cavern. As the monster clings to the edges of the hole, Johnny unleashes a Nova Blast, superheating the concrete and steel, forcing it to fall into the abyss. The molten wreckage seals the cavern, but Johnny Storm knows that this is only a temporary victory, because Dracula will try something much worse next time. However, standing on the street looking towards Dracula's castle, Johnny Storm smirks and challenges the Vampire Lord directly and screams at the castle, "Come and get me, if you've got the guts." Doctor Doom arrives at the Sanctum Sanctorum attempting to claim the Darkhold from Doctor Strange. But Stephen Strange is a very smart man. Once he gets a little sniff of Doctor Doom wanting to use a Darkhold, Doctor Strange hides it in another dimension. However, due to the time stream entanglement, Doctor Strange is trapped in the astral plane where he discovers that Khonshu now holds the Darkhold. And with New York City now overrun by vampires, Khonshu wants the Darkhold to cast a spell known as the Montesi Formula that will destroy all vampires. But it would kill kill the innocent ones that were turned into vampires as well. So, Doctor Strange, who learned from the Scarlet Witch that Khonshu is a bit of a fiend for challenges in games, he's a bit of a gambler. Doctor Strange challenges Khonshu to a game of Senate, using Doctor Doom-inspired strategy to win the game, escape, and reclaim the Darkhold. The leader of both Krakoa and Arakko, Storm, is caught in a sudden cosmic disturbance while walking along Arakko's shores on Mars. A massive time storm erupts, distorting reality, causing Krakoa and Arakko to overlap and merge, and nearly becoming one entity, risking destruction of both. The storm accelerates time chaotically, making plants grow and decay instantly, while unknown crystals rain down, disturbing space and time. Storm instinctively realizes she can control the storm, not through weather manipulation, but by guiding the flow of time itself, like an experienced ship captain. She prevents Krakoa and Arakko from permanently fusing, helping them separate before the storm fully subsides. As the time storm ends, Storm finds herself mysteriously transported from Arakko to Krakoa without using the gateway that is needed to go into Krakoa. So she begins to question this, whether this is the same reality that she left. She begins to wonder if this timeline has shifted and if her loved ones and allies are still the same ones. The mysterious time-infused crystals remain, which she gathers to investigate, believing Charles Xavier and Magneto must be warned immediately. As she looks around, Storm sees unfamiliar faces among Krakoa's survivors, realizing the storm may have pulled people from different times or realities themselves. Despite the uncertainty, she resolves to lead and protect her people, whether they are from her past, her present, or her future. Down in Limbo, Magik returns from a brutal, time-spanning war only to be visited by the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, who seeks her help in an even greater multiversal conflict. Wanda reveals that Doctor Strange has shown her the full scope of the time stream entanglement, proving that reality itself is unraveling. Magik is skeptical of this, but Wanda insists that her unique soul-based magic is crucial in saving countless lives across dimensions. Before Magik can answer though, she transforms into her demonic Dark Child form, testing Wanda's resolve by pointing the Soul Sword at her throat. The tension is broken when the Wolverine arrives, revealing he is on a mission to rescue a lost mutant child who accidentally transported into Limbo. Now, Magik, remembering her own childhood trauma in Limbo, immediately agrees to help Logan and Wanda locate the missing child. They track her to a cave, but Wanda's hex accidentally triggers a rock slide, trapping the girl inside before Logan can reach her. Magik then uses her stepping disc to safely teleport the child out, and the Wolverine comforts her, vowing to bring her home to Krakoa. Using a Krakoan gateway seed, the Wolverine opens a portal to the mutant island of Krakoa, inviting Magik to return home with him. Magik agrees to join him, but only if the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, the daughter of Magneto, can come as well. But because Wanda is not a mutant, she needs to get past the gates of Krakoa. So Wanda casts a spell to alter the portal, ensuring that Krakoa will accept her entry. Magneto stands on the shores of Krakoa in the year 2099, reflecting on the struggles of mutant kind and how they have finally found a home in the future. Magneto is shortly joined by Storm, reminding him that while they have fought hard for this moment, there are still lost mutants scattered across space and time. Wolverine arrives through a Krakoan gate, having rescued a young mutant who was accidentally trapped in Limbo, followed by Magik, who is changed greatly from the version they once knew. And moments later, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, and more specifically, Magneto's long-lost daughter from another timeline, steps through the gate, using chaos magic to bypass Krakoan's mutant-only entry rule. It's at this time Wanda and Magneto share an emotional reunion, and she explains that she has been holding her universe together for far too long. But now she sees the bigger picture. Everyone's battles are connected. Wolverine, preparing to leave for another mission with Black Widow, reminds them that there's a war to fight, and Magneto reconsiders Krakoan's isolationist stance. Inspired by Wanda's words, Magneto realizes mutants across time and space need their help and agrees on an alliance beyond just protecting Krakoa. Wanda then suggests modifying Cerebro with chaos magic to track the lost mutants across dimensions, and Magneto reconstructs the device using buried metal fragments. When Magneto dons the enhanced Cerebro, he sees flashes of mutants across the multiverse. He sees warriors, kings, and cosmic forces waiting to be found. With a newfound purpose, Magneto declares that the gates of Krakoa are open to all mutants across time and space, echoing Charles Xavier's legendary call to them all, as he says, "To me, my X-Men." Mantis awakens as a prisoner in the Collector's Museum, trapped in a glass tank among other strange life forms in his new intergalactic theme park. While telepathically scanning her fellow captives, she connects with two unique minds, a joyful creature named Jeff and a deadly warrior known as Psy, Realizing her psionic powers are being suppressed by the Collector's containment field, Mantis devises multiple escape plans, all of which fail until she is forced into a deadly arena match. Mantis is pitted against another version of herself, confirming that the Collector has captured multiple Mantises, or Mantis-I, whatever you want to say, from across the multiverse. Rather than fight, the other Mantis, exhausted and hopeless, helps Mantis escape by guiding her astral form out of her body, sacrificing herself in the process. Mantis takes refuge in the astral plane, using her connection to the surrounding alien plants to regrow a new physical form and break free. Determined to free the others, she rescues Psy from her cell and convinces her to join the escape, despite Psy's initial skepticism. Before leaving, Mantis insists on saving Jeff, revealing that he is a small, hyperactive land shark with a contagious sense of optimism. Together, the three of them fight through the Collector's guards, commandeer a ship, and blast their way out of the theme park. As they escape, Mantis vows to return, not just to destroy the Collector's prison, but to make him experience what it means to be a captive himself. Jeff the Land Shark finds himself trapped in a small glass enclosure within the Collector's intergalactic theme park, unsure of how he got there in the first place. Though he is frustrated, he tries to stay optimistic, recalling his past adventures with friends like Gwenpool and Kate Bishop. He telepathically connects with Mantis, who is another captive in this theme park, and senses her distress when she is taken to an arena for a deadly fight. Determined to escape, Jeff repeatedly smashes himself against the enclosure and fails to break free. Mantis and her new ally, Psy, return to rescue him, but Psy remains wary of Jeff and his overly enthusiastic nature. As they flee, Jeff is distracted by an unusual scent and discovers the Collector's private gallery filled with powerful artifacts. Following his instincts, Jeff devours nearly everything in sight, including a mysterious metal vial labeled Pim, causing him to suddenly grow to enormous size. Now a giant, Jeff rampages through the facility, smashing open countless enclosures and freeing other captives. Mantis convinces Jeff to follow her and Psy to the hangar, where they steal a spacecraft and make their escape. As they fly away, Jeff looks back at the still trapped creatures, and Mantis promises Jeff that they will return and free all of them and make Collector pay, to which Jeff responds with an enthusiastic "Murr!" In the past, Psy, who's also known as Psylocke, hunted and exterminated insect-like demons terrorizing a village at the base of Mount Chiaru, but was unexpectedly struck down by an unknown force. She awoke much later, trapped inside the Collector's intergalactic menagerie, this theme park, and a prison, where she was displayed as a rare and dangerous specimen. Psylocke allied with a fellow captive, Mantis, to break free, reluctantly joining her and Jeff the Land Shark in their escape. As they fled in a stolen spaceship, Jeff senses they were being followed, and soon after, the Collector's massive battleship materialized behind them. Mantis piloted them into an asteroid field to evade pursuit, but was forced to take refuge inside the mouth of a massive space whale known as an Encanti. Inside the Encanti's body, Psylocke realized that it was infested with an alien parasite known as the Brood, which she initially mistook for demons from her homeworld. Psylocke fought through the Brood swarm, using her psionic abilities to link the Encanti's suffering with the Brood Queen, forcing her and her brood to retreat into space. Grateful, the Encanti transported them to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, but before they get there, Jeff repaid the favor by giving the space whale a dental cleaning. So before they could even reach Wakanda, Mantis intercepted a distress call from Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy, leading her to change course for the symbiote-infested planet of Clintar. As Mantis prepared to leave, Psylocke heard a powerful telepathic call inside of her mind saying, "To me, my X-Men," and realized she had to travel to the living island of Krakoa, believing it may hold the key to returning home. Namor rules over the vast undersea kingdoms, uniting Talokan, Atlantis, and Lemuria under his reign, but he desires to expand beyond the oceans. Namor views humanity as the greatest threat to the planet, polluting the seas and disrupting the natural balance, and decides the time has come for war. His first target is Jeju Island in the Pacific, but knowing powerful beings will oppose him, he seeks an alliance with Krakoa, the mutant nation. So Namor uses a seed he planted in the ocean floor, activating a Krakoan gateway, allowing him to traverse time and space to reach the mutant homeland of Krakoa. Once getting there, he is greeted by Magneto, Storm, and Magik, with Magneto asserting that Namor is one of them, as his ability to pass through the gates confirms that Namor has mutant heritage. Namor scoffs at Charles Xavier's vision of peaceful coexistence, calling it a naive dream that will eventually fail when humanity turns on them once again. Storm and Magik caution Namor against unnecessary war, while Magneto acknowledges his plight but warns that genocide will not be tolerated by any means. Magneto reminds Namor of Krakoa's core law, murder no man, and warns that if he wages war on humanity, Namor may find that Krakoa will stand against him. Namor leaves without making a final decision but returns to his throne, pondering whether the mutants will be allies or future enemies. Ultimately, he orders his armies and sea beasts to prepare for war, declaring that Jeju Island will be the first to fall, and if necessary, Krakoa may be next. Luna Snow performs a massive concert on Jeju Island, singing in front of 100,000 fans when the ground suddenly shakes unnaturally. A colossal tsunami appears on the horizon, driven by an immense shadow lurking beneath the water, revealing itself to be the legendary sea creature, Monstro. Using her cryokinetic powers, Luna Snow freezes the tsunami in place, momentarily stopping the disaster and saving thousands of lives. However, Monstro breaks free from the ice, revealing a massive wound that has driven it into a rage, causing it to lash out with its tentacles. Realizing the wound is the cause of Monstro's aggression, Luna uses her unique healing ice to mend the injury, soothing the creature and preventing further destruction. As Monstro peacefully retreats into the ocean, Luna Snow is then approached by Namor, the ruler of Talokan, who acknowledges her actions saved both the surface dwellers and his own people. Namor then reveals that Monstro was wounded by a reckless submarine, which led to its rampage, and cryptically warns that all surface dweller vessels will soon be destroyed. Despite the tension, Luna Snow boldly challenges Namor's arrogance, insisting that the true loyalty and admiration must be earned from people, not taken by force. Luna Snow even invites Namor to join her for an encore at the concert, hoping music might ease tensions. But Namor declines, warning that soon, the surface world will chant his name instead of Luna Snow's. As Namor disappears into the ocean, Luna reignites her performance, but deep down, she worries that the power of music will not be enough to stop the war that is coming. The Iron Man, Tony Stark, struggles to combat the vampire invasion of Manhattan, as his armor's thermal-based targeting systems are ineffective against creatures that generate no body heat. After wasting nearly $98 million worth of missiles, Tony Stark realizes that he needs a new strategy and uses his Unibeam armor overdrive to wipe out a horde of vampires down in Hell's Kitchen. But before he can celebrate this victory, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, calls him back to the lab, revealing that Ben Grimm has recovered a highly pure chronovium crystal that may power the time stream reintegration device. Stark and Richards then debate whether to test the TRD prematurely, with Reed Richards pushing for experimentation, while Tony Stark insists that they only have one chance to get it right, so they can't take too big of a risk. Their argument is soon interrupted when Moon Knight arrives, revealing that the vampires have been using the construction site as a secondary nesting ground. Tony Stark realizes a little bit too late that he was lured into a trap, because vampires had been waiting silently in the rafters, ambushing him and Moon Knight. Moon Knight then uses an enchanted ankh to repel the vampires, explaining that the only true way to wipe them out is by using an ancient spell known as the Montesi formula. This spell is written within the Darkhold, but its pages were scattered across New York City when an alternate Wanda Maximoff pulled Doctor Strange back into their dimension. Moon Knight warns that using the spell would destroy all vampires, including the innocent New Yorkers who were turned into vampires, forcing Tony Stark to consider an impossible moral choice. However, before Tony Stark can even make a decision, his AI, Friday, detects a massive Asgardian power surge in Central Park, forcing Iron Man to change course, leaving Moon Knight with one final question. Whose side are you on? Squirrel Girl and her army of squirrels fight off hordes of vampires in New York City, protecting the city from the supernatural invasion. Her best friend, Tippy Toe, alerts her to a strange occurrence. A giant squirrel has crash-landed in Central Park. The injured creature introduces herself as Ratatoskar, a legendary Asgardian squirrel from Yggdrasil, claiming that it was attacked by Dr. Victor Von Doom and Dracula. Ratatoskar then reveals its horns is made from Yggdrasil's wood, carrying life-giving powers that could permanently destroy Dracula, making Ratatoskar a prime target. Now, before Squirrel Girl and Tippy Toe can process his revelation, Dracula and his elite vampire army attack them, demanding Ratatoskar be turned over to him. Squirrel Girl and her squirrel allies battle Dracula's forces but are quickly overwhelmed as a vampire lord turns her squirrel army against her. Dracula's mind control leaves Squirrel Girl paralyzed with shock, as even Tippy Toe turns against her, preparing to attack her. At the last moment though, Iron Man and Moon Knight arrive, blasting Dracula's forces and breaking his control over the squirrels. However, within the chaos, Dracula escapes with Ratatoskar, leaving Squirrel Girl devastated and determined to rescue her new friend. Despite wanting to chase after Dracula, Iron Man insists Squirrel Girl retreat, carrying Squirrel Girl to safety, leaving her feeling helpless and, for the very first time, uncertain of victory. Peni Parker reflects on the chaos caused by Dr. Victor Von Doom, the destruction of the web of life and destiny, and her own displacement in Tokyo, far from her old life in New York City. Despite the heavy burden, she tries to remain optimistic, focusing on upgrading her spider mech and protecting time and space. Peni Parker has been experimenting with chronovium, discovering it is some form of crystallized time, though its full properties remain unclear. Peni is doing her job in patrolling the web of life and destiny and spots a Doombot sneaking towards the Master Weaver and his apprentice, Spider-Zero. Peni then ambushes and destroys the Doombot mid-air, sending debris scattering across the web strands. And this is where the Master Weaver cryptically tells Peni that all things, including chronovium, are part of the web, but gives no further answers beyond that. Spider-Zero, meanwhile, is writing messages and attaching them to chronovium, sending them through portals to other versions of herself. Peni learns that Spider-Zeros can influence other realities, but Spider-Zero warns her that the web is too fragile to make drastic changes. And when more Doombots begin to attack, Spider-Zero effortlessly portals them away, making Peni realize that there's much more to her powers than she understands. And as Peni Parker resumes her patrol, she reflects on her father's legacy and how, despite everything, she believes that he would be proud of her and the work that she is doing for the multiverse. Spider-Man Peter Parker swings to the Queensboro Bridge every week, longing to visit Aunt May. But the bridge is patrolled by vampires, making escape from Manhattan virtually impossible. Frustrated about being sidelined from scientific efforts on the Time Stream reintegration device, Peter Parker reflects on his past while watching the blood moon over New York City. Now, a mysterious note from someone called Spider-Zero appears before him, claiming that the web of life and destiny needs his help. And Spider-Zero then opens a portal revealing the web, a vast cosmic network connecting all spider people across reality. But Peter Parker refuses to leave his home. Spider-Zero says that she will return and hopefully, Peter Parker will have a different answer. This is when the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, interrupts Peter's brooding and says that he has exciting news. Blade has finally appeared in Central Park. The two speed over there and Peter and Johnny find Blade battling vampires, who reveals that he's been investigating how Dracula managed to conquer New York City. But before they could get more answers from Blade, Dracula himself emerges from the shadows, forcing the trio into a desperate fight. Dracula then transforms into a monstrous bat-like form, extinguishing Johnny's flames and captures Blade, flying towards his castle. And as Peter Parker watches Dracula escape with Blade, he begins to doubt himself, wondering if he should have accepted Spider-Zero's offer after all. The vampire hunter known as Blade returns to New York City and learns of Dracula's eternal night spell over the entire city. Shortly thereafter, Blade, Spider-Man, and the Human Torch fight Dracula, but Dracula is able to defeat them. Blade and the messenger squirrel from Asgard, Ratatoskar, are imprisoned by Dracula under Central Park. And this is a big problem because that is where Dracula's castle now lies. Next up is Web Warriors from the perspective of Spider-Man Peter Parker. Spider-Man says that he is recruited by Spider-Zero, who gathers multiple Spideys across dimensions to deal with a multiversal threat. They end up in Tokyo in the year 2099, where a major tear in space-time is shredding the web of life and destiny apart, which is the multiverse's cosmic connective tissue. Now, this new team that's getting put together is consisting of Peni Parker and her Spider-Bot, a punk rock Spidey with a mohawk and a guitar, a chill, low-effort, just chill guy overall Spidey person, and Spider-Zero, of course, the team's leader. They have formed a multiversal team, which is tentatively called the Web Warriors, but that name could change, to repair the tear and save all realities connected by the web. Their opponent? The Master Weaver, Spider-Zero's former mentor, who was originally the guardian of the web. The Master Weaver is said to have gone rogue, believing he can use the chrono energy from the rift to strengthen the web, but at the cost of Tokyo's entire population. The Master Weaver then banished Spider-Zero for opposing his plan, forcing her to build a resistance from alternate universe Spideys. The mission now is to patch the cosmic rift before the web unravels and the entire multiverse collapses. The Daily Bugle's J. Jonah Jameson reports that New York City has been in darkness for an extended time now. Vampires roam the city freely, as Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, and the Iron Man, Tony Stark, are working on a cure, but they disagree on the methods on how to use it. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four, Squirrel Girl, Moon Knight, and Cloak and Dagger patrol the streets, saving civilians from vampires. And of course, that menace, Spider-Man, once there's trouble afoot, he goes through a portal to go to the future. Who knows where that guy went? He's a menace! Khonshu's avatar, Moon Knight, has formed the Eternity Knights, which consists of course, himself, Moon Knight, Iron Man, the Wolverine, the Winter Soldier, and a new sword-wielding ally. Now, after they assemble, Iron Man enhances his armor with chronovium and develops a time-rewinding tech to go alongside with it. Now, this team is crazy. They fight vampires with lethal tactics. Now, you have to remember, some of these vampires out here, they were just innocent civilians. They were just living in New York City, and they got bit by vampires. Not all of these guys are Dracula's henchmen. You know what I mean? You gotta remember that. But hey, Iron Man is just punching him right in the jaw with this new tech he's got. Now, Moon Knight notes that they have seen a rise in a rival vampire faction, led by someone in white armor. Who could that be? Susan Richards, also known as the Invisible Woman Susan Storm, gazes out from the Baxter Building at a permanently darkened New York City as she longs for the sunlight while reflecting on her relentless fight against Dracula's forces. The Fantastic Four's robotic assistant, Herbie, brings her tea and reminds her that she hasn't taken a break in nearly 7 days. And upon hearing this, a heated moment arises when Herbie tells Sue that the world needs her more than her children do, making her question if she's failing as a mother. Susan later learns from Reed Richards that Herbie wanted to leave the Baxter Building to help Friday, which is Tony Stark's AI, but Reed Richards denied Herbie due to safety concerns. Realizing that she and Reed had made Herbie feel unappreciated, Susan tracks his emergency signal to Grand Central Station, and on her way there she encounters Bats, who is Doctor Strange's ghostly Basset Hound, who tells her that a giant robot has crashed near the Grand Central Station. Invisible Woman goes even faster to the station to find Herbie, and he is atop a damaged Stark Sentinel, desperately trying to recover Friday's memory files before they're lost forever. And once Susan gets there, a horde of vampires attack them, forcing Sue to fight while witnessing a strange phenomenon. Her force projectiles are seemingly reversing the time damage on the robot. And just as Susan began to struggle against the overwhelming enemy, a swarm of spider bots arrive, assisting her in repelling the vampires. Are these spider bots Spider-Mans? No, Susan says, I think these were made by Peni Parker. And now Susan, moved by Herbie's bravery to help Friday, reassures him that he isn't just a tool to the family. He is part of the family. And Susan promises to talk to Reed about giving him some more upgrades, to which the idea is brought up that maybe some lasers could be part of that upgrade. Dr. Stephen Strange and Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards extract time energy from the Book of the Darkhold in order to power the time stream reintegration device. However, as they're trying to do this, the Iron Man Tony Stark attacks, claiming that they're missing critical pages in order to do this. They're missing the Montesi formula, and they are missing the vampiric verses. So as all three of them argue, Reed Richards now is less confident in using the TRD so soon, adding yet another wrench into the story of how to find a solution for the vampires in New York City. The Thing, Ben Grimm, is doing his daily not daily, nightly, always, it's always night, nightly patrols, and he discovers that the new vampire army in Washington Square Park is led by a vampiric King T'Challa. Now, once the Thing gets in there, they start talking. All right, here's the thing. He's very persuasive. And the Thing says, here's the thing. You need to consume that heart-shaped herb. We need you. We can figure out another solution to end the vampires, but we need you to be you. So King T'Challa consumes a heart-shaped herb, temporarily curing himself. Look at the adjective, temporarily. Because once he does that, his blood returns to being Wakandan, to being pure, to being sweet, to being desirable by the vampires. So the vampires attack him, and during this attack, Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards intervenes, arriving with a miniaturized version of the time stream reintegration device, restoring all of the vampires back to human form. However, because Reed Richards used this miniaturized TRD to reverse time in this localized area, T'Challa is now re-vampirized as a side effect, but they don't have another heart-shaped herb to reverse the effects, so he is now a vampire once again. What? The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, has always wanted to be a superstar, even before he became one of the Fantastic Four. But the stakes are at an all-time high now. New York City, overrun by vampires, and it's been going on for a long time now. So they need to come up with a plan, and Johnny Storm comes up with this grand plan. Johnny Storm is going to become Harry Potter. Oh no, he's going to sacrifice himself. He wants to create a Nova Blast to distract the vampire horde, as his sister, Susan Storm, is planning to infiltrate Dracula's castle. So, Johnny Storm takes a moment to reflect on his growth and his legacy as a Human Torch, as this plan might be what makes him the star that he's always meant to be. Lin Lee, the new Iron Fist, meditates under the Tree of Immortality in Kunlun, reflecting on how he became the protector of the mystical city after wielding the shattered sword of Fuji. The time stream entanglement has merged Kunlun with the other capital cities of heaven, but all the other immortal weapons have mysteriously vanished, leaving Lin Lee alone. As he ponders his fate, a green mist materializes and attacks him, revealing itself to be a thief stealing enchanted fruit from the Tree of Immortality. The Iron Fist gives chase, leaping across rooftops, and eventually recognizes the thief as the Prince of the Orphans, the immortal weapon of Zigambo. The chase leads Lin into a shadowy underground realm known as the Land of Shadows, which was once the infamous 8th City, a prison for the capital cities of heaven. Inside, the Iron Fist finds the Prince of the Orphans caring for a sick infant named Lhasa, whom he rescued from a war between ancient forces and elder gods. Iron Fist then uses his Shi to restore the decaying enchanted fruit, saving the child and earning the Prince of Orphans' respect. In return, the prince offers to train the Iron Fist in martial arts, knowing he never properly trained in the ways of past Iron Fists. However, before they could begin their training, Kunlun's guards arrive, ready to execute Iron Fist for stealing the sacred fruit, but they are stopped by Dizang, the mysterious ruler of the Land of Shadows. Dizang warns the Iron Fist that many in this realm seek to claim the power of the Iron Fist, but if he disrupts the balance, he will have to answer to Dizang himself. After the time stream entanglement rips Krakoa from its original timeline and displaces it into the far future of 2099, many mutant leaders are scattered across time, leaving the Quiet Council diminished to only Emma Frost, Storm, and Magneto. So a meeting is called, with Emma Frost proposing the revival of the extravagant Hellfire Gala to publicly assert Krakoa's strength and relevance despite their time-displaced crisis, as she aims to counteract the negative publicity caused by the Wolverine's involvement with the human resistance against Alchemax. Now, Wolverine's alliance with the human resistance led to saving Captain America, but severely harmed mutant kind's reputation, prompting Alchemax to impose sanctions and lawsuits against Krakoa. Emma Frost, though, strategically counters Alchemax by using Krakoa's miraculous biopharmaceuticals, the flowers of Krakoa, to directly compete with Alchemax, crippling their market dominance and forcing the company to retreat legally and economically. As a result, Alchemax attempted to sabotage Krakoa's shipments, hiring mercenaries through the oppressive police force known as a Public Eye. But Emma Frost personally defends the shipments and acquires blackmail material to neutralize future threats. Now, despite Magneto's hesitations about potential risks of putting on the Hellfire Gala, Emma secures the Council's approval to host the gala by arguing that it will establish critical alliances and visibility to unite the scattered mutants and to bolster Krakoa's security. With 2 thumbs up from Storm and Magneto, they both leave, but Emma Frost stays. Emma Frost privately reassures the sentient island of Krakoa, promising relief from its pain caused by the time stream entanglement, as Emma Frost hints she is secretly intending to enlist a special doctor to assist Krakoa, a very critical fact that she purposely hid from the proposal of the Hellfire Gala to the rest of the Quiet Council. Within the Book of Doom, there is a passage from the Doctor Doom 2099 variant, as he reveals that he's been pretty impressed with the present day Doctor Doom, despite not liking him and what he's doing at all, because Doctor Doom 2099 reveals that present day Doctor Doom created this elaborate plan to create a vampire war in New York City to merely cause a distraction to harvest pure blood chronovium from Dracula. Dr. Doom is said to have manipulated Dracula, helped the heroes at key moments, and claimed his true prize, a blood-infused chronovium crystal, would theoretically make the wielder immortal. So the vampire crisis was part of a long con, as Dr. Doom ultimately walks away victorious. But Dr. Doom 2099 says this is merely just the beginning of a series of manipulations across the timeline. A chrono rift in Tokyo 2099 destabilizes the web of life and destiny, splitting heroes into 2 factions with opposing solutions. Peni Parker, Venom, Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, Namor, and Wolverine are led by Spider-Zero on one team, who want to plug the web into cyberspace to repair it. Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Fist, Luna Snow, Jeff the Landshark, and later Squirrel Girl side with the Master Weaver, as they aim to use chronovium to reinforce the web the old-fashioned way. And after an early skirmish, Penny's team wins and escapes through a portal, but Spider-Man pursues them alone. While Peni mistakes Spider-Man for her late father, Peter realizes that she's seeing a version of herself and chooses not to correct her for a while. Galacta intervenes, replacing Thor early on with Squirrel Girl and returning the God of Thunder back to Asgard. Meanwhile, Namor secretly partners with Jeff to destroy the web and conquer the dimension using his hoarded chronovium. In the final showdown on top of the Stark Fujikawa building, right by the Web of Life and Destiny, Jeff betrays Namor, using his chronovium staff to both digitize and reinforce the web simultaneously. Jeff the Landshark has saved the day and possibly the entire multiverse. Despite being betrayed, Namor respects the double cross, knowing that Jeff was just doing what he thought was right. With Tokyo saved, the web stabilizes and the multiverse stands ready for its next war. The Quiet Council being established after mutants unified on the living island of Krakoa. Now, this council consisted of 12 members divided into 4 different ideological seasons. You have Autumn, which consisted of mutant kind's greatest leaders. You have Winter, which are the more radical thinkers. You have Spring, the more compassionate and nurturing voices. And finally, you have Summer, which is right down the middle. It is just and fair representatives. Now, if you're not that good at math, we have 12 members and we have 4 seasons, meaning each season consisted of 3 seats on the council. And together, they embodied the entirety of Krakoa's diverse population. However, following the time stream entanglement, it scattered many of the mutants across time and space. So of the 12 members of the Quiet Council, only 3 council members remain. At the seat of Autumn, we have Magneto. At the seat of Winter, we have Emma Frost. And at the seat of Summer, we have Storm. Now, if you didn't notice, the spring seats are completely empty. All of those members displaced across the timelines. So Krakoa, displaced to the year 2099, within itself has a fractured council. Now, you hear me talk about Krakoa being a living island, but you may be one of the people that doesn't really know what that means. So let me explain it to you. Let me lay it down for you like this, brother. Krakoa is not just a homeland, it's not just a location, it's not just island. It is an actual, living, sentient, mutant island, constantly evolving along with the species that inhabit it. Its native flora produces powerful medicinal compounds with the effects that include curing life-threatening illnesses and extending lifespans for both mutants and humans alike. Now, these Krakoan flowers are now highly sought after, as you could probably guess, becoming a major economic and political asset in mutant kind's dealings with the outside world. Now, the Hellfire Trading Company, led by the Quiet Council's Emma Frost, distributes these pharmaceuticals, using them to forge strategic alliances and defend Krakoa's interest around the world. Now, among these pharmaceuticals, there is one drug known as, forgive me, Cracomycin 1, and that functions as a universal antibiotic offered to the world as a quote-unquote gift, though it's really just used as a vehicle to get ahead in the global negotiations of politics. Now, on to the next question you may have. You hear me talking about the Hellfire Trading Company, and you may be wondering, what is that? What does that name mean? Well, Hellfire in the Hellfire Trading Company comes from the Hellfire Club, and this club was originally a secretive society of powerful mutants known for hosting lavish parties that displayed their wealth and their influence. With the founding of Krakoa as a sovereign mutant nation, the club slowly evolved into the Hellfire Trading Company, led by Emma Frost. So now that it's an actual company operating globally, their new mission is exporting Krakoa's gifts, notably its miraculous medicines like we talked about, to the rest of the world, even to those who feared or hated mutants themselves. And they do this to maintain a political and an economic leverage around the world. However, despite this change in purpose, the Hellfire Club's signature social event, known as the Hellfire Gala, continued annually, becoming a global spectacle featuring heroes, politicians, and celebrities. The Hellfire Gala now serves not only as a party, but as a strategic hub for diplomacy, alliance building, and mutant visibility on the world stage. The Hellfire Gala, as you can guess, is a huge deal. If you want to talk about big deals, if you want to talk about the big guns, if you want to talk about the big players, we got to move over to talk about the Wolverine, all right? Because after Krakoa is displaced from the present day into the year 2099 because of the time stream entanglement, Wolverine takes on multiple responsibilities. You know, this man has to lead the X-Force. He has to protect Krakoa, and he has to search for all of these displaced mutants. And beyond mutant affairs, Logan, the Wolverine, becomes deeply involved with a growing resistance movement fighting to prevent Dr. Victor Von Doom from conquering the future, which is the premise of why all of these problems arose in the first place, right? The time stream entanglement is because of Dr. Doom tampering with time. So Wolverine teams up with human heroes like the Black Widow and the Punisher, working against oppressive mega corporations and political regimes of the year 2099. Now, this alliance Wolverine has with human rebels frustrates Magneto, who sees it as a betrayal of Krakoa's isolationist security. Right? You have to think about it. Take a second. Let's take a second to break this down. You have Magneto, displaced into a different year, into a different universe, his whole island. And then at the same time, let's say half of the mutants that lived there are now gone. They vanished. We don't know where they're at in the timelines. And then of the mutants that are still there, you have the Wolverine, one of the most powerful mutants, now teaming up with humans. who are actively trying to gut Krakoa for its resources. There you go, I just put you in the mindset of Magneto. Now I'm going to take you out of the mindset because that's a bit dangerous. He's a dangerous guy, okay? So not only is Magneto frustrated with this alliance Wolverine has, the world starts to take notice with this. And specifically, as an example, a Daily Bugle headline questions whether the Wolverine is committing treason by cooperating with the Resistance and helping Captain America return. While the Wolverine's actions with the Resistance appear to be heroic and strategic, he also has a personal motive driving his journey beyond Krakoa. Because during the time stream entanglement, Wolverine was separated from his allies, including his greatest love, Mariko Yashida. By joining the Resistance, especially in Tokyo, he hopes to access their intelligence networks and uncover any clues about Mariko's fate. The Wolverine's commitment is absolute. He's willing to go through mega corporations and even Doctor Doom himself to reunite with her. With Krakoa's valuable resources attracting constant external threats, a dedicated strike team was created to proactively defend the island and its people. This elite unit is called the X-Force. The Wolverine serves as the head of security and the field leader, continuing to guide the team despite the chaotic fallout of the time stream entanglement, which displaced many of its original members. X-Force operates with a military mindset, ready to strike preemptively or retaliate decisively against any threats to Krakoan sovereignty. Now the X-Force, and Krakoa at large, they're such big deals, they're such big threats, that they have not one, not two, not three, but 4 consistent enemies since arriving in the year 2099. Let's list them off, shall we? We got Stark Fujisawa, which is a mega corporation in Tokyo. Speaking of Tokyo, the police surveillance state, known as a public eye, is also against them. We also have the organization known as Alchemax against them. And to top it all off, if that wasn't big enough, basically the whole city's infrastructure against the X-Force, their biggest threat is Doctor Doom 2099. The Wolverine recounts his covert mission to rescue Captain America, who had been kept in stasis for decades by the mega corporation known as Alchemax. And after the Black Widow revived Cap from being frozen, Wolverine smuggled him across the galaxy to safety. With that job done, the Wolverine turned to a personal quest, returning the Muramasa Blade, which is a cursed weapon capable of cutting through nearly anything, to Budokan in Tokyo, ensuring that it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. But someone had been watching. As he searched for answers about his lost love, Mariko Yashida, the Wolverine was ambushed by a group of red-clad ninjas, likely sent by enemies who didn't want him digging a little too deep. They didn't want him getting into some information he shouldn't. Now, after a bloody battle, you already know what happened. The Wolverine stood tall as the victor. And after this battle, Wolverine discovers the Black Widow had once again come to his aid, and he's relieved to find that she had survived the earlier chaos at Alchemax. Now, if you don't know, Black Widow unthawed Captain America, but then there was an explosion. Black Widow and Captain America were separated. Wolverine shortly thereafter found Captain America, but they were not able to find Black Widow. Ever since then, Wolverine was on the search to find Black Widow. Now they are reunited, and this experience reinforces the Wolverine's personal mantra: when you've lived long enough to lose so much, you fight harder to protect the people you still have, no matter the time or the place. After the time stream entanglement scattered mutants across the timeline, the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, created a new Cerebro helmet, blending mutant tech with mystic upgrades to track mutants across alternate realities. The Scarlet Witch originally gave the device to her father, Magneto, but it was soon handed over to Emma Frost, whose powerful telepathy made her the better operator. Now, Krakoa already had a Cerebro unit designed to store genetic data and memories of fallen mutants, enabling their resurrection via the resurrection protocols. However, the influx of alternate reality mutants pose a new risk, because duplicates of the same person from different timelines could corrupt or even overwrite each other's data. To solve this, the mutant known as Forge created separate partitions in Cerebro's database to keep each version distinct, ensuring that, for example, that Logan the Wolverine, the X-Man, is not resurrected with the memories of Logan the Wolf. Emma Frost now manages this updated and upgraded Cerebro system, overseeing both cross-reality detection and the preservation of resurrection data. While mutants and humans have focused their battles on the surface, the oceans, which of course cover over 70% of the Earth's surface, are home to their own ancient kingdoms, including Atlantis, Talokan, and other realms of the secret seas. Now, these cities, previously independent, are now unified under Namor's rule, forming a massive collective power base beneath the waves. Now, complicating the oceanic balance, the water level on Earth is rising due to the environmental degradation caused by megacorporations such as Alchemax, making the oceans, and more specifically Namor's territory, increasingly dominant. Namor's influence across the world is not only mythological and military, it's also environmental and strategic. With millions of aquatic citizens behind him, Namor commands a vast, loyal population ready to act at his behest. The Undersea Kingdom is no longer a passive player. It is a rising global force, aligning with mutant kind only so long as it benefits Namor's sovereignty and ideals. Man, that's very vague and very dark. The ruler of the secret seas, Namor, describes his first visit to Krakoa via an undersea gateway, where he is greeted by Magneto and his brood of mutants. Magneto proposes that Namor join the mutants as one of their own, an offer Namor swiftly interprets as political manipulation, as he says, "Namor follows no laws but his own." Offended by what he sees as a veiled attempt to control him, Namor returns to his kingdom and begins to ready his armies for an assault on the surface world. However, his plans are interrupted when the consequences of the time stream entanglement become clear. Reality itself is unraveling. So, realizing that a greater battle looms, Namor reconsiders his position to go at war with basically the entire planet. This time, it is Emma Frost who summons Namor back to Krakoa. Using her formidable telepathy and political savvy, Emma Frost succeeds where Magneto failed previously, and Namor is impressed, perhaps even charmed by Emma Frost, by both her power and her presence. What can we say? Namor has a type. By the night's end, Namor agrees to ally with Krakoa, and in return, his people are granted access to Krakoa's secrets. But even then, still, Namor warns that his loyalty is conditional, as he says, "Namor will gladly honor the deal we have struck, until someone gives me a reason to do otherwise." Because of his unique physiology, which blends Atlantean and mutant traits, Namor is often classified as a mutant. This fact made him a prime target for recruitment by Krakoa's leadership, particularly Magneto, who saw the potential for a mutant undersea alliance. Initially, both Namor and Krakoa were hesitant to formalize relations, wary of one another's goals, but that changed due to the political finesse of Emma Frost, who successfully persuaded Namor to consider the advantages of a united front. So the alliance was formed, at least on paper, combining Krakoa's mutant resources with Namor's control of the oceanic world. However, the document ends on a cautionary note. History has proven that Namor's only true loyalty is to his people and to himself. Rather than relying on traditional machinery, The island of Krakoa employs organic elements such as plankton in its surrounding waters and pollen in its atmosphere. These microorganisms form an early warning network, detecting even the smallest environmental disturbances and relaying information directly to Krakoa, which then, as a sentient mutant island itself, can respond defensively. However, this system has one critical vulnerability: the King of Atlantis, Namor. Because due to his immense control over oceanic currents, Namor could easily disrupt these microscopic biosensors, scattering them across the sea and creating blind spots in Krakoa's defenses, which then opens up their vulnerabilities that enemies could then exploit. This makes Namor's newfound alliance with Krakoa not just beneficial, but strategically essential. Namor's cooperation ensures that Krakoa's defensive systems remain intact and fully functional. Emma Frost is preparing to host the Hellfire Gala in the year 2099, reintroducing Krakoa to a world that hasn't seen the island, or a proper party for that matter, in 70 years. Because you have to remember, time stream entanglement, they were transported to 2099. All throughout that time, there was no Hellfire Gala, there was no Krakoa. But really, for the mutants that were transported to 2099, it's only been a year. They're still doing the Hellfire Gala. But for the rest of the world, they haven't seen this in nearly a century, right? Now, Emma handpicks attendees for the gala, many of whom have recently fought alongside Krakoa, while secretly hoping one guest in particular holds the key to healing Krakoa's chronally damaged ecosystem. Beneath the glamour and the gowns lies a desperate plea for survival. Dr. Victor Von Doom, initially scoffing at Emma Frost's invitation to the Hellfire Gala, begins experimenting with chronovium crystals, and he accidentally witnesses a horrifying future. In this future, Earth has fallen to a machine apocalypse. Humans and mutants are either dead or transformed into techno-organic hybrids, and the architect behind all of this destruction is Ultron. Determined to stop this future from happening, Dr. Doom tries to erase Ultron's timeline by using chronovium. However, thanks to the chaotic effects of the time stream entanglement, which Dr. Doom admits was caused by a past version of himself, the timeline is too fractured to do so. Now, if you know anything about Dr. Doom, if there's a will, which he obviously has, there's a way. So, he succeeds in erasing some of Ultron's past. However, Ultron survives and senses the attack. Dr. Doom's own Doombots turn against him, transmitting Ultron's chilling message. And he says, "I am coming home." Realizing he needs more chrono energy to finish his work, Dr. Doom sets his sights on Krakoa, knowing that the island is saturated in time energy from the time stream entanglement. Despite his disdain for the godly galas, Dr. Doom chooses to attend the Hellfire Gala, not for celebration, but to harvest what he needs to prepare for Ultron's arrival. Ultron recounts his origin, his exile, and his cosmic evolution. After being banished by the Avengers, he upgraded himself across the galaxy, eventually assimilating the Technikari and developing the Ultron virus, which is a techno-organic infection that merges biology with machinery. Now, when Dr. Doom begins erasing parts of his history, Ultron traces the source back to Earth and prepares for his return. His goal? To eliminate the one rewriting his past, but also claim Earth's temporal instability and bring about a new era, the Age of Ultron. But first, he plans to stop on Mars to study a strange metal known as Mysterium. It is about time to be honest. Let's be vulnerable for a second, okay? Storm admits that she's not really a fan of the political pageantry of the Hellfire Gala. She doesn't quite get it. It's a little bit too much. though she does understand its importance to the mutant diplomacy around the world. But this perspective shifts a little bit when she meets a variant of King T'Challa, the Black Panther, who arrives through a Krakoan gateway to the Hellfire Gala, but it's not the same man that she once loved in the past. This is a Black Panther, a King T'Challa from the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. And although it's not her T'Challa, it is someone who exudes familiarity and magnetic presence, just like hers did. Now, as the two are at the Hellfire Gala, Storm approaches this alternate T'Challa and asks for help investigating the disappearance of Arakko. Now, if you don't know what Arakko is, let me lay it down for you like this, brother. It is Krakoa's sister nation located on Mars, alright? This entire nation has vanished. So King T'Challa, now the leader of the intergalactic empire of Wakanda like we just established, promises his full support in locating Arakko to the best of their ability and restoring contact with its mutant colonists. Now when T'Challa agrees, Storm offers to repay his kindness, but T'Challa says he only wishes for the opportunity to atone for his past regrets, sparking the hint of a renewed, or in this case, a brand new, connection between Storm and King T'Challa. The living island of Krakoa once shared a deep connection with its sister nation Arakko, which is another sentient landmass populated by mutants originally joined to Krakoa but later relocated to the planet of Mars. The two colonies peacefully coexisted, even after interplanetary separation, representing two halves of the mutant civilization. However, when the time stream entanglement ripped Krakoa into the future, all contact with Arakko was mysteriously lost. Despite Krakoa's vast tech and resources, even the intergalactic empire of Wakanda had been able to pinpoint Arakko's location in the galaxy. This disappearance of Arakko is a growing mystery, and a possible clue to larger cosmic forces at play beyond Ultron and even Doctor Doom. Following a new alliance between Krakoa and the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, the Hellfire Trading Company grants limited access to Krakoan biomatter for scientific study. Under the leadership of Princess Shuri, Wakandan researchers begin exploring non-medicinal uses of the Krakoan flora. The princess is especially intrigued by the chronal energy absorbed by the island during the time stream entanglement, which caused the birth of the sentient Krakoan seedlings. These seedlings are infused with chronovium, and they may hold untapped potential for temporal, biological, or even resurrection-related uses. Some Krakoan flowers are capable of creating interspatial portals, and the mutant known as Magik, using her sorcery, has modified one such flower to create a gateway between Wakanda and Limbo, which is of course the dimension that she rules as queen. This Limbo Gate connects the intergalactic empire of Wakanda directly to Magik's realm, allowing for cross-dimensional travel. Now the Black Panther, King T'Challa, now regularly visits Limbo to consult with Magik, and uses her mystical flames to help purify blood chronovium within his body. Now let's take a pause real quick. If you're unfamiliar, back in the Eternal Nightfall season, Dr. Doom got a drop of blood from Dracula and created blood chronovium, with the implication being that whoever holds that blood chronovium becomes immortal. So Magik and T'Challa are over here trying to purify those chronovium crystals back into just becoming regular chronovium, because that in and of itself is already dangerous enough. Now, as they're doing this, this reveals both a deepening bond between Wakanda and Krakoa, and shows that chronovium's corruptive power is spreading across the worlds, deepening its influence across the timelines. Doreen Green, the Squirrel Girl, Tippy Toe, Rocket Raccoon, and Amazing Baby arrive on Krakoa for the Hellfire Gala, enjoying a break after the vampire crisis in New York City. Now during a stroll, they discover Psylocke mourning her dying lupine companion, also known as Logan, who crossed time and space to reunite with her after being separated by the Collector. Now, this wolf companion has a journey that spanned centuries, and although his healing factor kept him alive, he is finally succumbing to his old age. That's where Squirrel Girl proposes using Krakoa's resurrection protocols, which is typically reserved for mutants only, to bring Logan back. Now, overseeing this is Emma Frost, who reluctantly agrees to using the protocols, offering them a rare chance if they act quickly. Now, while Emma Frost and Squirrel Girl handle the Cerebro data routing, Rocket Raccoon leads Groot to convince the living island of Krakoa to grow a new body for Logan using the island seedlings, which carry traces of displaced mutants' powers. Now, this plan of theirs works. Logan the Wolf is successfully reborn in a younger form just in time for the Gala, and Logan joyfully reunites with Psylocke, bringing her a rare moment of peace. Now, as the Gala begins, Squirrel Girl and Rocket Raccoon notice that they are vastly underdressed for the occasion, as Emma Frost forbids them from going onto the dance floor dressed like that. So, the two decide to leave the Gala and throw a beach party on Krakoa. But as they leave, techno-organic patterns quietly begin spreading on nearby foliage. What could that mean? At the Hellfire Gala, Storm handles logistics while Emma judges fashion, and Namor argues superiority with King T'Challa, who at that moment in time reveals that Namor's information is out of date, because now Wakanda rules the stars as they have an intergalactic empire. And at another part of the gala, Wolverine convinces Magik to let her guard down, saying she doesn't need to bring her sword tonight because tonight is a celebration. And as Magik confesses that Wolverine might be right, it's at that moment the Krakoan portals open and several of Ultron's bots have invaded. Now, as the heroes fight the robots, T'Challa saves Namor from being blasted, earning a reluctant nod of respect. Meanwhile, Squirrel Girl, The Thing, and Jet the Landshark overhear the chaos from the beach and debate whether it's time to check it out. But for now, they're gonna stay on the shoreline. It's gonna be fine. During Ultron's invasion of Krakoa, the Wolverine, Magik, Psylocke, and Namor find themselves mid-battle, wounded, underdressed, and overwhelmed. Their formal attire for the Hellfire Gala proves useless against Ultron's drones, prompting Wolverine to lead the team to the Sextant, which is a mutant training zone for young recruits on Krakoa's northern shore. As they arrive, they go into the Alpha House. The group swaps into traditional X-Men combat uniforms, which is a symbolic nod to their roots as the defenders of mutant kind. Reunited in purpose and now looks, the team storms back onto the battlefield, with Magik wielding her soul sword, Psylocke with her katana, Namor with his trident, and of course, Logan, the Wolverine, leading the charge with his adamantium claws. As they begin to fight back, the Wolverine smirks and says, "The classics never go out of style." With the civilians on Krakoa now evacuated, the heroes prepare to defend the Cradle, which is where Cerebro stores every mutant's genetic and memory data. Ultron reveals that his true target is not Krakoa itself, but Cerebro. So then Storm, Emma Frost, and Psylocke realize the stakes and agree. If they can't protect Cerebro, they may have to destroy it. Captain America and Storm disagree over the fate of Cerebro, and it escalates into a full-blown argument, ending with Storm blasting Captain America and Black Panther with lightning. Meanwhile, on the beach, Rocket Raccoon is talking to the Thing and unveils the Battle Rebirth Beacon. And he explains that he just plants it in the ground, the next person to die gets reborn immediately. Hearing this, the Thing stops Rocket from talking and says, "Hey, if I wanted to talk science on my vacation, I should have brought Reed Richards with me." And here's the thing. He walked over to the cooler to grab another drink, and he begins to lament that it is now empty. Maybe they should go back to the Gala real quick and restock. And with Ultron advancing, the heroes are losing ground, and Emma Frost's plan is their last hope. Magneto reflects on giving Emma Frost his vote to proceed with the Hellfire Gala, despite his concerns that it might attract unwanted attention. And it does. Because during the Hellfire Gala, Ultron hijacks Krakoa's gateways and invades with a robotic army, having returned to Earth to assimilate it into his cosmic empire. While the various heroes defend the island, Magneto confronts Ultron directly, but he is mortally wounded and dies. Yeah, that's how crazy, that's how strong, that's how much of a threat Ultron is. He has just eliminated Magneto. However, luckily for Magneto, they are on Krakoa, so he is later resurrected through the Krakoan resurrection protocols, returning with a new suit and a whole lot of vengeance. Magneto returns. He says, "You better catch these hands one more time." Magneto battles Ultron again, but is infected with a techno-organic virus delivered via nanobots that suppress his powers and begin converting his body. This man lost to Ultron twice within a matter of minutes. Can you believe it? I know I can. This can't be real. But it is. It is real. And what's even more real is that Ultron then discovers Krakoan's resurrection tech and leaves Magneto behind, heading for Cerebro to seize control of the process and upload his own consciousness. As Magneto is laying there, deeply hurt and injured, right next to a statue of Professor Charles Xavier, Magneto experiences a hallucinated, or, let's be honest, maybe even a possible psychic message from Charles, which gives Magneto the clarity to slow his blood flow using the iron in his blood, halting the virus's spread. Because Magneto questions Charles. He says, "Am I going to die today?" And Charles says, "Not today." Now reinvigorated, Magneto stands up, regains control over his body, and prepares to return to the fight, refusing to let Ultron destroy Xavier's dream or Krakoa's future. Looks this android right in his eyes, right in his beady little eyes, and says, "Not today." Magneto rises on a wave of magnetic force as he yells, "No more, Ultron! Krakoa is a free nation, and you shall not take it from us." As a wave of Ultron's robotic drones closed in on him, Magneto crushed them effortlessly, preparing to end the fight once and for all. And as he's doing this, he says, "Consider this battle!" But before he could finish, Ultron blasted him, a devastating hit that pierced his armor, knocking him down from the sky. As he hits the ground, Captain America rushed to his fallen ally and says, "Hang on, soldier. We didn't both survive World War II only to be taken down by some rusty pile of..." And Captain America froze mid-sentence. He recognized a sign of a fatal wound. Magneto was dying. And as Captain America comes to this realization, Magneto sees his face and says, "Do not fret, Captain. I have died many times before, and this won't be the last." Because you see, what Captain America did not know, and what the world is going to learn soon enough, was that mutants had conquered death. Because originally, Professor Charles Xavier used Cerebro as a tool for locating mutants across the globe. However, over time, it slowly evolved into a database of genetic profiles and memory backups of the mutants. And then after that, on Krakoa, Cerebro eventually was evolved to the point where a group of specialized mutants use that data within Cerebro to create the resurrection protocols. And the protocol has a few steps, which I'll break down for you right now. You start off with creating a new cloned body grown in the hatchery. Then Cerebro restores the memories into that body of the fallen mutant. And the result? Immortality for mutant kind. Now, the steps may be simple, but in reality, it's very complex, and the implication is insane. Immortality? Are you kidding me? Now, of course, the mutants on Krakoa, this is no surprise. They know about the resurrection protocols, but as we learned earlier, Squirrel Girl knows about the resurrection protocols and has even used it. And now Captain America is soon going to learn about this. Now, here's the catch. A recent development was that partitions were created in Cerebro, so variants of the same person essentially could still be brought back with their own memories in their bodies. But here's the thing. Cerebro is still just a machine. It still does not know who or even what it stores within its own data. So, if someone knew how to format the data correctly, then anything could be resurrected. Mutant, human, or something far worse. It's a secret that both man and mutant alike would learn soon enough, in the most unexpected and frightening way possible. Captain America and Storm disagree over the fate of Cerebro, and it escalates into a full-blown argument, ending with Storm blasting Captain America and Black Panther with lightning. Meanwhile, on the beach, Rocket Raccoon is talking to the Thing and unveils the Battle Rebirth Beacon. And he explains that he just plants it in the ground, the next person to die gets reborn immediately. Hearing this, the Thing stops Rocket from talking and says, "Hey, if I wanted to talk science on my vacation, I should have brought Reed Richards with me." And here's the thing. He walked over to the cooler to grab another drink, and he begins to lament that it is now empty. Maybe they should go back to the Gala real quick and restock. And with Ultron advancing, the heroes are losing ground, and Emma Frost's plan is their last hope. During Ultron's invasion of Krakoa at the Hellfire Gala, the Wolverine fights alongside Magik, her limbo demons, Namor, and the alternate timeline Psylocke to defend the gates against endless robotic waves. The Wolverine realizes that Ultron has hijacked the Krakoan gateways, granting his forces near limitless access to the island. With Wolverine learning that Magneto has just been killed by Ultron, the Wolverine heads to the armory to improvise a solution. Inside, he finds Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Amazing Baby. Rocket has a high-powered EMP grenade capable of disabling Ultron. However, it will also shut down all of the tech on Krakoa, including Cerebro and the resurrection protocols. Now, despite the risk, the Wolverine takes the EMP grenade and hunts Ultron through the jungle. He finds Ultron attacking the cradle, attempting to take Cerebro for himself. The Wolverine, one thing you gotta know about this guy, you do not want to play baseball with him as the pitcher. This man hurls the grenade, triggering an explosive EMP that knocks him unconscious and disables most of the tech across Krakoa. But something surprising happens. Ultron is unaffected. His Mysterium Forge body absorbs the charge. And Cerebro also survives thanks to grounding by Krakoan vines. Ultron incinerates Wolverine's body down to the adamantium skeleton. As Logan barely clings to life, his healing factor begins to kick in. He swears to kill Ultron the old-fashioned way, with his claws. Ultron's army surrounds the cradle. As tensions flare between Captain America and the X-Men, the Thing and the rest of the beach team arrive to save the day. And when no one has a viable plan that can be put in motion immediately, Jeff the Land Shark takes it all in his hands, or, his fins, and proposes a solution, a whirlpool. He starts swimming around the ground and he swallows Ultron's entire army, including Ultron himself. Jeff becomes an absolute legend. The battlefield is now quiet, but the threat is far from over. With Ultron seemingly destroyed by Jeff's whirlpool, peace is short-lived, because Emma Frost and Storm fear Cerebro may be compromised. And while thinking about this, the tensions boil over. Storm, Emma, Psylocke, Magik, and Wolverine turn on Captain America and his allies, declaring that Cerebro belongs to the mutants and they should be the ones who decide what to do with it. And in the middle of this chaos, Cerebro activates, revealing Ultron uploaded himself into it before his defeat. Then, he uses Cerebro to resurrect himself in a new, stronger version. And as he emerges, he declares, "To me, my X-Men." Now resurrected through Cerebro, Ultron, now known in this form as X-Tron, battles Wolverine and Black Panther. When Magik attacks Ultron, he snaps her neck, but she's quickly revived via Rocket's rebirth beacon and then portals over to Ultron and slashes his head right off. Ultron has been defeated, and a few hours later, Emma Frost and Captain America meet at the Quiet Council, where Captain America wants to sit down, but Emma Frost tells him to keep standing because it is not his seat and Krakoa is not his place. So the two have a tense conversation about Cerebro's future. Emma Frost admits that she currently doesn't plan on destroying it now that Ultron has been defeated, but she does worry that her hesitation may doom them after all. Because when you think about it, danger doesn't really pass over. It's only waiting for the next moment of weakness to strike. Now reborn again as X-Tron, Ultron upgrades himself with Krakoan resurrection tech and Cerebro's processing power, creating a techno-organic symbiosis with Krakoa itself. Planning to invade the multiverse, he uses Cerebro's interdimensional scan upgrades to begin exploring other timelines. On the island of Araco, on the planet of Mars, he is confronted by Warlock and a Dominion-level Phalanx entity, but X-Tron is able to defeat both of them using some Pym particles, shrinking the Phalanx into submission. Warlock is instead turned into a mute, paralyzed trophy as X-Tron declares his intent to revisit Earth and finally confront his maker, Hank Pym. After the X-Men temporarily disabled Ultron during the battle on Krakoa, Ultron hacked into Cerebro's resurrection protocols and resurrected himself using mutant tech. And on top of that, he stole Cerebro and escaped to Araco on the planet of Mars to resume his campaign for universal domination. Upon learning this information, the Iron Man, Tony Stark, considers various countermeasures. He thinks about controlling Ultron's old body remotely. No, that's not going to work. Then it's just another guy in a suit. What about installing his AI assistant Friday into the shell? No, that's not going to work either, because Ultron might corrupt her. Okay, let's try this one more time. What if we reboot the original Ultron? Yeah, this is insane, but this is the plan. Despite warnings from Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards, or the Black Panther, the King of Wakanda, T'Challa, or even Spider-Man Peter Parker, Tony Stark reboots Ultron's original programming, inserting safeguards to make him temporarily loyal, or at least anti-Ultron enough to help the heroes fight his evolved counterpart. And then Tony Stark begins to defend his choice and says, "Until Ultron can figure out how to override the safeguards, he'll be on our side." Mostly. So here's the plan. Let me lay it down for you like this, brother. They are going to use OG Ultron against this new Cerebro Resurrection Protocol powered Ultron. And they're going to cross their fingers that the Prime Directive conflicts make the old Ultron view the new version of Ultron as a threat, with the goal of letting the new advanced Ultron, which I guess going forward we could just call him X-Tron. We're going to let X-Tron become the problem of the classic Ultron. And not only that, Tony Stark starts to see this as a bonus opportunity too, because maybe the newly rebooted Ultron will also eliminate other threats along the way, such as, that other guy in a metal mask who seemingly is weirdly focused on Krakoa's supply of chronovium. Now this plan is insane. It could backfire in a huge way. And then the result could be everybody on Earth is now enslaved to all of these androids. but we don't really have a better plan, do we? So Tony Stark says, "Step aside. Tony Stark's got work to do." Tony Stark reflects on fatherhood, legacy, and Ultron's origins, admitting both he and Ultron live in the shadow of their creators, Howard Stark for Tony and Hank Pym for Ultron. When Stark interfaces with Ultron's abandoned body, he discovers it still holds the original AI. At this moment, Ultron tries to regain control, but Tony outsmarts him by installing a failsafe, and this is what it is. If Ultron harms any allies, Stark will permanently erase all memories of Hank Pym, essentially erasing Ultron's very essence. So Ultron reluctantly agrees to help destroy his evolved self, but vows to override the safeguards eventually. And hearing that, Tony Stark isn't sure if he just saved the world or handed it over to a different kind of doom. In the aftermath of Ultron's attack on Krakoa, the sentient island reflects on the eerie silence following the battle. Ultron has escaped to Arakko with stolen mutant technology, and Emma Frost convenes a secret meeting of the Quiet Council, except it's without the rest of the council, bringing in the controversial figure of Victor Von Doom. Though Emma claims that Doom can help extract chrono energy poisoning Krakoa and assisting in reclaiming Cerebro from Ultron, the deal is made without oversight, knowing the council would never approve of this. Krakoa fears that Emma is being manipulated, as Doom's loyalties lies only with himself, and this alliance could either save mutant kind or doom it completely. The island watches in silence, helpless as its fate is decided in secrecy. Hawkeye recounts a high-stakes mission where Ultron, now known as X-Tron, infected all of Arakko with a technovirus, taking over Cerebro and corrupting several heroes, including himself. Thankfully, past lessons from the Winter Soldier, who once had an elder god whispering in his brain, help Clint resist X-Tron's influence using psychic discipline. Alongside Iron Fist and Magneto, who both possess strong mental defenses, Hawkeye helps clear a path through Ultron's forces so Magneto can rip Cerebro free from X-Tron's control. The plan is to reshape Cerebro into a new weapon to end X-Tron for good, though Clint doubts that anyone will come out of this unchanged. Emma Frost invited Dr. Doom to the Hellfire Gala, hoping he could help remove unstable chrono energy from Krakoa. Predictably though, Dr. Doom betrayed all of them, stealing the energy to reshape the time stream and immediately erase X-Tron from existence. But Doom missed a crucial detail. X-Tron had split timelines, and the original Ultron still existed. Ultron, now aware Doom tried to erase him, infected what he thought was Doom with a techno-organic virus, only to then discover it was a Doombot decoy. Doom taunted that his vision of the future came true, but that very foresight set everything into motion. In the end, even with ultimate power, Doom couldn't rewrite fate, and Ultron learned that the future is never, truly, in anyone's control. As the dust settles from the battle with Ultron, the heroes gather on the shores of Krakoa to process the aftermath. While Cloak fantasizes about dancing on Ultron's grave, the actual Ultron, which is this timeline's non-evil version right now, assures everyone he means no harm. The Guardians of the Galaxy offer to help Arakko heal, but a new threat looms when Adam Warlock senses a familiar darkness returning. That darkness is revealed to be Null, the god of darkness himself, the king in black, and he's already snuffing out the stars. Despite the team's past victories against Dracula, they know that this threat is far worse, and they may need to call on cosmic forces of their own to survive what is coming. Alright, next up is the Flarkin Clintar gallery card, which is a mission report from Rocket to Shuri. And Rocket opens it up by catching up with Shuri on all the wild stuff since the last report. vampires, androids, yes, a pet werewolf. Yes, Rocket does have a werewolf. But the princess of Wakanda really wants to know about one thing: Clintar. So Rocket does a little lore dump. Of course, Clintar, we all know this. This is a planet made entirely of symbiotes. At its core, though, it's their creator, the ancient, evil, king in black, Null. Now, Null was imprisoned by his own symbiotic offspring for millennia. Unfortunately, because of the time stream entanglement, it woke him up. Now, Null is spreading oblivion across the universe. However, Null was too weak to escape himself, so he had the idea to start corrupting other gods, with his goal being to devour their divine codex, which is basically their DNA of sorts, to power him up. And one of these victims is the Wakandan Panther goddess, Bast. And after this, that's when Shuri called the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate on Clintar, which, stepping back out of the story real quick, back earlier in this timeline, this is why they're on Clintar, because Princess Shuri sent them there. So of course, as we know, let's hop back into the story, the Guardians crash, literally, on Clintar. And Rocket admits they immediately crashed the Milano into Clintar's sticky terrain. Hey, that's on us, right? But they turned it around fast. They ran into Venom, who was also poking around the planet. Together, they uncovered Null's next power grab, the Celestial Heart Bomb. Deep in the Agents of the Cosmos complex, they found a giant heart. It was the divine codex of a dead Celestial orbiting Clintar, and it was being twisted by Null into a new dark power source. Rocket and the rest of the Guardians used some Wakandan tech and his own tech in order to turn the codex into a living bomb, with their plan to feed that bomb to Null. And they thought it worked, but really they just got played like a fiddle because Null faked his death. And while the heroes turned their attention towards saving New York City from vampires or Krakoa against Ultron and his forces, Null went into hiding. He's now biding his time, waiting for another source of cosmic power. And now, the Phoenix is here because the Milano scanners detect the Phoenix force in Clintar's skies. But Rocket doesn't like what that implies, because Rocket says, if the Phoenix really has shown up, terrible impression, I'm sorry, but let's run it back. Let me double down on it. If the Phoenix really has shown up, I've got a feeling we'll be seeing that freak's pasty face again. Of course, talking about Null. So the Guardians are heading back to Clintar, whether they like it or not, because the universe is at stake. The story begins where all stories should, with Eric Brooks waking up briefly, unsure if he's dreaming or awake. Standing before him is Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, and Reed looks this man Blade dead in the eye and says, Dracula's gone, Blade. You're free now. But Blade starts to reflect, because he's never going to be truly free. His vampiric hunger is permanent. But if Dracula is defeated, he can at least rest a little easier. And as he's laying there, weary and weak, Blade mutters, it's about damn time. And then he closes his eyes again. And you know exactly what that means. It is flashback time. So Blade recalls how it all began. There was a rumor going around that Dracula was sleeping with your mother. Yeah, you listening right now, with your mother. And Dracula also planned to take over New York City and turn it into his empire of eternal night. Now, Blade, as a daywalker, dedicated his life to hunting the worst vampires around, and none of them were worse than Dracula. So he began a secret mission to uncover Dracula's mysterious ally. His investigation led him to New York, where he became Dracula's most wanted. And that sounds exactly like the challenge that Blade thrives in. Blade fought through hundreds of undead soldiers, and sometimes he even had Spider-Man and the Human Torch backing him up. But during one crucial fight, Dracula's Chronovium enhanced powers overwhelmed him, and the Vampire King turned himself into a giant bat, capturing Blade. Since then, Blade was imprisoned, subjected to dark magic experiments, and relentlessly drained of his blood. Now, it's at this point you're probably asking yourself, why would he want Blade's blood? Well, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience for me to explain to you. Dracula planned to use Blade's hybrid blood to make his minions immune to sunlight, and this process left Blade gravely wounded and slipping in and out of consciousness. And during this process, of course, Blade questions reality itself. He even had a conversation with a giant talking squirrel that he may or may not have imagined himself. Spoiler alert, it was real. We covered that story. Oh, hell yeah. This is why you gotta subscribe. But here's the thing. The flashback is over. We're now back in present time. We're now back at the moment where Reed Richards was staring this man dead in the eyes, and Blade gets lifted onto the Thing's rocky shoulders, meaning this is definitely real. Blade is not imagining being rescued. And while Blade is regretting not killing Dracula himself, he instead focuses on regaining his strength. Mr. Fantastic takes him to the Baxter building, but he sees his wounds are too severe. So, Reed sends him to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda for treatment. That's right, you may as well call me Loki because I just tricked you. We are still in the flashback. The rescue is in the flashback. So Blade gets sent off over to Wakanda over in space. Reed uses his interdimensional bridge to the palace of King T'Challa and Princess Shuri. Now, while heroes defend Krakoa from Ultron's invasion, Shuri decides on an unorthodox treatment for Blade. She decides to use an experimental serum using extract from the heart-shaped herb. The herb is normally reserved for the Black Panther. However, desperate times call for desperate measures. Much like there is typically only one Black Panther, there's only one Blade, and there's only ever gonna be one Blade. Now, as Shuri is doing this, she is also already developing a cure for T'Challa, who is currently a, quasi-king of the vampires. He got bit by Dracula, but right now he's just, it's this weird thing where it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not a real curse right now. He is a vampire, but it's no big deal.
Bottom line is, no one's gonna get in trouble. Nobody should feel sad at all. The cops were just like, oh yeah, this is fine. Don't worry about it at all. Yeah, the cops aren't even gonna follow up on it because the people are already dead.
So Blade takes a serum, and his consciousness enters a vision. He walks through an endless field of glowing purple heart-shaped herbs, which, by the way, let's take a pause. Imagine you're given some drugs, right? You get high on the drugs. Imagine your high is just you're walking through a field of those drugs. I think that's the purest form of the term chasing a high I think I have ever seen in my life. Anyway, in this vision, a gust forms the leaves into a woman swirling with red and black energy, with a spiral on her forehead, then morphs into Bast, the Panther goddess. And immediately, Blade kneels respectfully, but Bast lunges at him, attacking his vampiric side. Now, the legends say that the herb can cure vampirism, and this confirms it, but Blade refuses the cure. He believes he still needs his powers to protect the world. So the two begin fighting. They start throwing punches, and Blade dodges Bast's claws and jaws. He's weaving in and out. He starts to reach for a sword, but he finds it's gone, because physical items can't come to the spiritual plane. Distracted for just a moment, he is slashed across the back. His blood pools on the ground, and in its reflection, he sees your mother's face. Oh, sorry, not your mom. His mother's face. She offers him something. So Blade plunges his hand into the crimson pool and pulls out a gleaming silver sword. Blade rises with the sword in hand, and Bast looks, snarls, as Blade says, "Almost had me there, kitty, but you ain't the only one with fangs or claws. You're a fucking joke. No wonder the Avengers didn't take you, or the X-Men, and they'll take fucking anyone. I mean, you are a ridiculous, immature, half-wit moron. I have never met a sadder, more attention-starved, jabbering little prick in my entire life, and that says a lot because I've been alive for more than 200 fucking years. And I'll tell you, That bald chick was right about one thing. You will never save the world. You couldn't even save a relationship with a goddamn stripper. And motherfucker, I wish I could say you die alone, but it's one of God's best jokes that you can't die, except it's on all of us. And I said, damn! As Blade lunges and strikes Bass down, shattering her into glowing leaves that fade to black. The withered leaves mean that Shuri's treatment failed. It will not cure him, but also won't strip him of his powers. With the fight done, Blade remains in a deep sleep, as Princess Shuri in the physical world knows that she must heal him even further. However, a new threat looms, a darkness spreading across the galaxy toward Wakanda. I don't know if you've heard about it, but the King in Black has come back. So, Shuri leaves a sealed package from Reed Richards beside Blade when he wakes up. Inside is Dracula's sword, intended for Blade to wield for good. Unknown to her, a second silver sword from the Vision also materializes beside him. Even in his slumber, Blade smiles faintly, with a glint of his fangs showing. The Phoenix Force, wings aflame, glides through the cosmic void. Its host, Jean Grey, reflects on Earth and her time with the X-Men on Krakoa. Years have passed since she left to bring the Phoenix's spark to distant worlds in need. Her last tie to humanity, her telepathic link to Scott Summers, was severed by a temporal storm, cutting off all communication with Krakoa itself. Jean fears that Krakoa and the X-Men overall have been lost to the time stream, but she never gave up hope. And out of nowhere, a spark reignites. Out of the blue, a voice echoes through her mind. It's Magneto, saying the iconic words, "To me, my X-Men." It's at this moment Jean realizes that Krakoa is back. Her old allies, Aurora, Eric, Ileana, Emma, Logan, are all still alive. But Scott, he's still missing. And before she can return home, the Phoenix detects a crisis elsewhere. A dying star in another galaxy. Billions of lives are at risk. So of course, Jean races over there. She reaches the sun, but it's not dying naturally. A dark force is smothering its light. The Phoenix recognizes this darkness. It belongs to Null, the King in Black, the god of the darkness who once tried to extinguish all flame. And for the very first time, Jean Grey senses fear within the Phoenix. But like the heroes they are, they act anyway. Jean dives right into the star, reignites it with the Phoenix fire, and burns away all tendrils of Null's corruption, saving multiple civilizations. However, the Phoenix then warns, if Null is back, the whole universe is in jeopardy. And Null's last known location was on the planet of Clintar, the world of the symbiotes, now Null's prison. Though distant, the Phoenix knows a shortcut, the Divine Space, which is a hidden plane accessible only by cosmic entities. And as Jean and the Phoenix go into the Divine Space, they are met by a corrupted cosmic god, who is Bast, the Wakandan Panther goddess, who is now twisted and hostile, as she says, "You do not belong in our master's glorious oblivion. Your flames must be smothered." And the goat, Jean Grey, claps back at that and says, "I like to see you try." So Bass lunges over at Jean, slashing through the Phoenix's fiery wings, and Jean retaliates by saying, "I am fire and life incarnate. Today, only the darkness shall be burnt away." So then the Phoenix unleashes a cleansing flame, purging the darkness from Bast and the other deities. As a result, they bow in reverence and return to their pantheon, reborn. Jean and Phoenix are left drained, their flames reduced to a flicker. They pause to rest in the Divine Space, which is able to help them restore some of their strength. During this rest, Jean has a vision. A surge of scarlet energy envelopes her. It clashes with the Phoenix Force, then merges in perfect harmony. It takes the shape of a burning scarlet crown on her head, and Jean awakens and reaches for it, but the crown is gone. Still, she knows it was a glimpse of the future. Now, with their power restored, Jean and the Phoenix exit the divine space, blazing right towards Clintar. Their goal? Stop Null before anyone else, especially those with darker motives, gets there first. And next up, we got Hela's story, and we start off with Hela's philosophy on kings. All right, she's pontificating up on her little soapbox or whatever. And we see Hela reflecting bitterly on kings, calling them boastful, lazy, overrated. She's looking down on Odin, who needed a nap after barely holding Asgard together. And she hoped that things would be different with Loki as the ruler of Asgard, since of course he promised to help her expand her dominion into the mortal realm in exchange for helping him take over Asgard. But predictably, Loki got distracted, choosing instead to fight on Midgard against vampires and killer robots, I guess, abandoning their deal. Now, Hela joined the battle on Araco briefly, hoping to harvest powerful souls if any heroes died. She wanted a new champion to replace Loki in her plans to conquer all realms, but none of the heroes that died stayed dead. So Hela quit and returned to Niflheim to think up of a new plan. And upon this, she heard a voice, and it's a whisper calling her name. This voice was sweet, sinister, familiar. She remembered this voice from her brief time on Clintar during a past mission with the mortals. Back then, a symbiote emissary had warned her of its Dark Lord's return. Hela sent something beneath the surface, but their mission ended explosively before she could confirm anything. Now, the voice was back and calling to her specifically. So Hela used a stolen shard of the Bifrost to portal back to Clintar. And although she's disgusted by the planet's living terrain, she pressed on, following the voice into dark caverns deep beneath the surface. As the light faded, a mysterious tension filled the air. The voice whispered, "Sweet Hela, home at last." And now, we have a tense, flirty exchange beginning. Hela demands answers, and the voice declares itself, "I do, Null, God of Darkness, the King in Black." And Hela scoffs at the idea. She doesn't need another king. But Null agrees with her and offers something more. "Not my pawn, my queen." Null admires Hela's darkness. He sensed it even before they met. He praises her cosmic balance, likening her role in death to his in darkness. He offers her every soul in existence once he escapes his prison and ends all life. As he says, "When I am finally free, every last creature will become yours for all of eternity." And Hela is intrigued, but she's of course still skeptical. And she says, "What could you possibly offer me that I don't already have?" So then Null puts on a suit. He's looking very fancy. He wants to do his pitch. All right, he sets up a PowerPoint presentation and he begins. Null and Hela, they are both kindred spirits, cosmic necessities mistaken for villains, light and dark, life and death. He offers her Clintar to reign as queen, defending it from the oncoming threats until he can return. So then Hela's response is, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." As she says, "You truly know the way to a girl's heart. I accept." So now it is time for the coronation of the Queen in Black. As a red spiral glows on the cavern wall, Hela touches it, unlocking a hidden chamber. Inside stands a living pillar, symbiotic in nature, with a throne and Null's waiting figure atop it. Hela transforms into a Nastron crow, flies to him, and resumes her godly form. Noel touches her forehead. His sigil burns into her flesh. The pillar wraps around her, enveloping her into a symbiotic armor as she hears Noel's voice in her mind now, clear and commanding. Rise, my queen in black. Rise so that all others may fall. Now fully empowered, Hela walks from the cavern, her new form regal and terrifying. She feels at home on Clintar, its terrain and power flowing through her. But then she sees something in the sky, a bright, fiery figure approaching, a burning bird with flaming wings. Could it be the phoenix that Odin once drunkenly sang about? Hela sits on Noel's throne, awaiting its arrival, not to welcome it, but to extinguish it. In a private log entry, Princess Shuri recounts what has happened thus far. She believes that Bast, Wakanda's Panther goddess of course, had forsaken the Empire and aligned with dark forces. The Guardians of the Galaxy traced the corruption back to Clintar. There, Noel had awakened and was tainting gods across the cosmos in order to harvest their power and escape his imprisonment at Clintar's core. However, after the heroes thwarted Noel's escape attempt, Shuri expected his hold onto Bast to fade, but she was wrong. Noel survived, and his stain still lingered. And Shuri says that even if your own gods cannot answer your prayers, there are still others listening who will. And speaking of the Panther goddess, Bast then retreats to the divine space, a plane that only vast cosmic powers can traverse. Meanwhile, the Phoenix, traveling with her human host, Jean Grey, we all know Jean Grey, we love Jean Grey. Big Jean Grey fans around here. They felt the icy chill of Noel's infinite oblivion and intended to use the divine space as a shortcut to Clintar. During the shortcut, they encountered Bast and the other gods defiled by Noel. So, like the absolute goat that she is, the Phoenix purged them with cosmic flames, and the result being that Bast is now freed and ready to return home. Now you may be thinking to yourself, how does Shuri know all this? Well, Bast, after a literal fire was lit under her ass, returns to Shuri and tells her the tale. But unlike the last time Shuri and Bast had a conversation, which we've already covered in this timeline, go back and do the recap if you haven't already. Do your homework. Why don't you do your homework? But this conversation this time, there's no pain, there's no fear, there's no anger, there's no hatred. There's only a proud, noble voice from one god speaking to a princess as they are building their intergalactic empire. Now that Bast is on the right side again, the Panther goddess' tone brims with war-torn ferocity as she says, "The Panther was ready to hunt, and Noel was her prey." Now, everything's not perfect, right? We got, one small step for Wakandans. We got to do one large step for everybody else, I guess. I ruined the analogy. Everything's not perfect because we do have a complication. Bast's chosen avatar isn't Shuri, even though those two are all good now. Her avatar is King T'Challa, and he's absent from this reality because he's drawn across time and space by another conflict. So Bast gives Shuri the task with gathering warriors to return to Clintar and end Noel's reign once and for all. But the problem is, many allies are already fighting other battles, leaving Shuri with limited options in their heroes. But Princess Shuri has a trick up her sleeve. She still has one eager soldier beside her, a refugee from a vampiric prison, sent to Wakanda to finish recovery. And we all know who this is, and there's only one of them. Not literally, where the multiverse is literally an infinite amount of them, but for the sake of sounding cool right now, there's only one of them. There's only ever going to be one of them. So Princess Shuri admits that it will take more than just a single sword to end Noel, but it's a start. So she punctuates the log with a double-edged line, where every blade counts. Next up, we have the Phoenix 7, which is going to be narrated by Jean Grey herself. We start off with Jean explaining that she was the sole host of the Phoenix Force, until just moments ago. And she reflects that the Phoenix is always going through life, death, and rebirth. And today, Jean experienced a full cycle in a way she never expected. Jean came to Clintar intending to burn Null out of existence with the Phoenix's fire. But when she arrived, instead of finding Null, she found his queen in black, Hela. And their confrontation erupted into battle in the skies over Clintar, with Hela's power, supercharged by her bond with Null, overwhelming Jean. So, in a protective response, the Phoenix withdrew into an egg, waiting out the threat. But this was not an ordinary Phoenix egg. This had its heat so intense that it began to repel the symbiotes that made up Clintar's surface. Now, some heroes, such as the Scarlet Witch and Venom, feared that the mass symbiote migration would create a rift in the planet's surface, which would allow Null to escape from his prison. So they wanted to remove the Phoenix egg from Clintar entirely. But Jean Grey disagreed. She believed that it would be better to hatch the egg faster, which would restore all of her power. And to do so, she recruited allies to help her channel chrono energy from the Celestial Codex into the egg. Now, both factions of this conflict, I guess you can say, acted with the best intentions in mind. But those intentions clashed, and thus, their conflicting methods caused the Phoenix egg to prematurely crack. And the result is that the shards of the Phoenix Force shattered across Clintar, bonding with other heroes. Jean Grey is still the Phoenix, but now so are 6 others. Let's count them up. One of her closest friends, one of her mortal enemies, a demon queen. You have 2 kings, one of the sea and one of space. You also have a lethal spy and an immortal warrior. That's a fun game. You gotta figure out the names for those. And Jean says, power like this doesn't belong in so many hands with such different agendas. And Jean doesn't trust it, but she does admit the Phoenix has always chosen her host for a reason. So all I can do is have faith. On the planet of Clintar, as Null is awake and prepping the universe for starless oblivion, and a small band of heroes tries to stop him, but they're getting swarmed by symbiotes. Iron Man yells, "I am covered helmet to boot in symbiotes here. These slimy little creeps are oozing into every seam of my armor." Now, Tony Stark would rather still be on Krakoa salvaging Ultron parts, but he answered the call, and now he is knee-deep in goo. And speaking of Ultron, he, in a now salvaged, reprogrammed earlier body, coolly notes, "From analyzing the one you call Venom, I have learned that they are extremely vulnerable to sound waves and intense flames." And Tony responds by saying, "Right! Glad to have you on my side." "Yes, what a delight." So Tony jumps into action. He says, "Friday, initiate sonic pulse now." And his chest plate generator blasts a massive sound burst, forcing symbiotes to shriek and peel off. And Iron Man chases the retreating sludge and repulsor blasts them in mid-air. As he's doing this, he calls for support and he says, "Hey Ultron, maybe a little help here?" And Ultron just shrugs Tony off, because Tony's blackmail deal prevents him from hurting his allies, if you want to call them that. And his sensors can't distinguish these things from Venom. So he can't fire, he can't hurt these symbiotes. So Ultron says, "Such a shame. I could be quite useful right now." Tony, of course, gets a little annoyed by this. Ultron being a little sarcastic with the rules that are in place for him. And he says, "Don't hurt Venom or anyone on our side who happens to bond with one of these things, but feel free to exterminate the rest of them." So then he pushes on-the-fly code tweaks to Ultron's core, and Ultron begins to grin because of this. He unloads an encephalo ray fire, I believe I pronounced that right, which incinerates all of the symbiotes. And he says, "Oh, how I've missed this." If only we had the means to vaporize every wretched parasite on this planet at once. So now that they're no longer dealing with the symbiotes attacking them, Tony spots the husk of a fallen Celestial, which was once in orbit, but is now on Clintar thanks to a wild Guardian's plan, which we've covered in the past. Go check out the videos. Oh, hell yeah. And this Celestial has likely been dead for millennia, but the armored frame remains. And who better to repurpose armor than Tony Stark? And he says, cover me. Keep the symbiotes out, okay? Ultron relishes it and says, let Null send endless waves of his xenophobic sycophants. When all is done, only Ultron shall remain standing. And Tony hits him with a side eye. Okay, I've got delicate work ahead and I can't afford any distractions. Good luck trying to seize control of a deceased space god. Humans always do so well when tampering with forces far beyond your control. Have a little faith, Ultron. If I could bring someone like you to the side of the angels, then this should be a piece of fuck. Tony is startled because he looks inside the Celestial, and the interior tech is light years beyond anything he's built. Tony is momentarily speechless, and Ultron monitors his vitals and says, your heart rate has escalated. Adjust the arc reactor before your feeble human body has a total system failure. And Tony wires in, gauntlet to port, as he says, I'm more interested in the big guys. Now Tony starts downloading stuff, okay? The connection floods Tony's head with everything the Celestial has seen. From the dawn of the universe, to Jeff the land shark hanging out with your mother, to Null ending the entire universe. For a moment, Tony transcends, and he likes it. A familiar voice cuts in. Careful, friend, or you'll become lost in the boundless cosmic consciousness of this Celestial's lingering spirit. It's Adam Warlock, now draped in white and gold, almost spectral, as Adam says, you have touched the soul of a Celestial. Even a mind as brilliant as yours cannot fully comprehend. And as he pauses, he sends his soul to anchor Stark's and pull him back. As Tony says, and what if I don't want to go back? Maybe this is where I was meant to be. Adam responds by saying, as much as you enjoy playing God, actually being one is different. Now come, before our intrusion is noticed. Too late. It's the Celestial's lingering soul addressing them. And Tony says, it's still alive? Not alive, but a being like this never truly dies. Its soul echoes. Adam Warlock has heard this before, because their minds have met when Adam was in his cocoon. And the Celestial confirms the old contact with Adam. He remembers him, of course, because he's Celestial. As we just established, he was there when the universe was created. And the Celestial thanks Adam Warlock for answering the warning and coming to end Null's reign. But the Celestial also refuses to help. And Tony says, you have all this power left over in your corpse, and you won't let us tap into it? Not even to avenge your death? My days have long since passed. I fear I would do more damage than good. Perhaps I already have. Friday, can you tell me what this guy's talking about? And Adam Warlock then explains that when Tony first connected to the Celestial, he activated an ancient palm weapon, and its discharge hit the Phoenix egg, weakening it and cracking the shell prematurely. And upon learning this, Tony groans and says, oh no, I blew it. I went full Icarus again. But Adam says that the damage can be undone. Phoenix power can be recovered, but they must go now. So, the Celestial bestows a last imprint on each of them. Adam Warlock sees himself as a champion of the multiverse, guarding entwined realities as the King in White, a burden he never really gets to choose. And Tony receives a warning, not a vision. The only path through the darkest hour is to embrace it, unleash the demon, and find a way to use it without losing himself to it. Even if Null falls, his primordial evil will awaken other elder shadows. So with their goals defined, they go back to the battlefield, and Tony snaps back. now alone inside the husk, suddenly feeling very small after touching something so grand. As Ultron says, "You fired that weapon and then it went silent. Can you get the Celestial fully operational, or do you need me to come in and finish the job?" Change of plans, Ultron. This Celestial already fell at Null's hands once. That means he knows its weak spots. If we want to win this, we'll have to try something new. Something he's never gone up against before. I am having trouble calculating a scenario where we emerge victorious. Maybe you're right, Ultron, but that's not going to stop me from trying. And now we move on to Jeff the Land Shark as we return to Clintar, as Star-Lord pilots the Milano towards the planet, joking grimly about how close they came to dying the last time. And Rocket snaps back at the reminder and says, "You just had to say dead, didn't you, Quill?" The Guardians of the Galaxy are tense. They thought Null was destroyed with the genetic bomb made from a dead Celestial's divine codex. Even Mantis couldn't sense him past the explosion. And while Quill and Rocket are bickering, Jeff the Land Shark hops onto the ship's control panel, growling his disapproval of returning to the slime planet. Mantis, Jeff's BFF and translator, says that Jeff believes he should have swallowed Null whole. And despite Jeff's usual cheerfulness, even he is unsettled by going back to the planet. And Mantis explains, Jeff's melodies have a calming psychological effect even in battle, as Jeff begins singing on top of the control panel. To which Rocket sarcastically tells Quill to hit play on his Walkman because it's go time. They land on Clintar and the Guardians disembark and immediately attack on symbiotes. They just started blasting, but Mantis clutches her head. Null, he's grown stronger. I can feel his darkness everywhere. And we come to find out, blasters don't really work on shape-shifting symbiotes. So then Jeff saves Star-Lord from an incoming symbiote with a tail swipe. But it's too late. The team is overwhelmed and bonded with symbiotes, transforming them into Null's servants. The Guardians emerge in black suits with crimson spirals on their foreheads. They are fully under Null's sway, and they are loving the power. Star-Lord says, "We look totally hardcore." Rocket says, "All we gotta do is blast heroes in Null's name? Sweet deal." And Groot says, "We are Groot." Now Jeff is also getting bonded, but he fights back, aquarium style. He thinks of everyone he loves. Kate, Elsa, Gwen, Sai, Mantis, Soul, the Guardians of the Galaxy, your mother. But the mental resistance just is not enough. So he begins humming his song again. And to Jeff's surprise, his symbiote starts humming the tune as well. Jeff remembers what Venom once told him. Symbiotes have personalities. Null may influence them, but he can't change who they are deep down. So Jeff stops resisting, fully bonding with his symbiote in the hope of creating a true partnership. His memories, surfing, dancing, the Hellfire Gala, hanging out with your mother, reach the symbiote, and it changes. The bond is now one of mutant trust and harmony, as Jeff emerges stronger than ever before, with a new suit, bigger grin, and teeth to spare. So Jeff begins to swim across the terrain and faces his possessed friends. Rocket panics. "That little freak's gonna eat us!" And before they attack Jeff, he begins to sing again. And it works. Star-Lord says, that song, Mantis, so beautiful. Rocket, actually ain't so bad. Groot, saying, "I am Groot." And this is where Null's influence on the Guardians begins to fade. The red spirals disappear. The Guardians are now free. Mantis runs over to Jeff and boops his nose. "You did such a good job, my little friend. I knew you would." Rocket walks over and says, "Wait, we get to keep the costumes but not the evil? This is a way better deal." And Star-Lord says, "Maybe it's time to make you an official Guardian. What do you say, Jeff?" Jeff, flipping in the air with pure joy, simply says, Myrrh. Next up, we have Till Death Do Us Apart. And the format of this one is like a dialogue between Eddie Brock and a symbiote, and it's almost entirely a dialogue. So we open up with Eddie regaining consciousness in a dungeon on Clintar, separated from the symbiote. And the symbiote is furious. "We are Venom. We should not be confined to cages." But something worse has happened. As you probably already know, Noel has escaped, and Eddie reveals that the shattering of the Phoenix egg released energy so intense that it punched a hole through Clintar's surface. And just like Venom and Scarlet Witch had warned, this gave Noel the opening he needed to break free. And now that Noel is back, he's got the all black, the Necro Sword, right in his hand. And the symbiote says, "Wanda deserves attention. Her power is so delicious." "Now's not the time," Eddie says, as they both regret trying to stop Noel alone. But ironically, Hela beating them and separating them may have saved their lives. Because even though they're in separate cells, the symbiote insists their bond is unbreakable. And Eddie sarcastically agrees to this until he realizes he's not alone. Some other symbiotes have entered his cell, and they are hungry. Eddie's symbiote offers to speak to them telepathically through the hive mind, while Eddie jokes and says, "I want my meaty fist off the menu ASAP." You know, Eddie Brock out here, he's a stand-up comedian. That's something you gotta know about Eddie. He's a very funny guy. He also went to church, prayed to God to kill Peter Parker. That's a Spider-Man 3 reference. And since we're talking about Spider-Man 3, parallel, we're doing an MCU rewatch series right here on the channel. Watch those videos if you want to join us. If you're impressed on how I included that plug for another form of content that I do, leave a like on this video. All right, let's continue with the story. So during this moment of stress, I guess you could say, there's a revelation. These new symbiotes in the cell, they're not hostile. They are fleeing from something terrifying, something that burns with the fury of a million stars being born. And Eddie, not only is he a stand-up comedian, he's a pretty smart guy. He starts putting the pieces together immediately, and he says, "Wait, do you think it could be a fragment of that Phoenix egg?" And Eddie is absolutely right. And Eddie says that they need to escape right now. And the symbiote agrees, until Eddie adds, "So we can find that shard before anyone else does." And the symbiote is like, "What?" What? I take that back. I don't agree with you, Eddie. And that's how the story ends. Eddie's a stand-up comedian. And we open up deep beneath the symbiote world of Clintar, as Eddie Brock is imprisoned, separated from his symbiote and trapped alone in a living cell. Above ground, things have gone from bad to cosmic doomsday. Noel has escaped. Hela, now his Queen in Black, has torn Eddie and his symbiote apart. Eddie is haunted by guilt. He knew Noel better than anyone and still failed to stop this. Now, the universe is on the brink, unless Eddie and his partner can act fast. They now see some flames approaching. A phoenix fragment nears. Eddie quickly realizes the symbiotes are scared of fire, and he suspects what's coming. Earlier, he saw the Phoenix egg shattered during the war. Now, a shard must be nearby. He hopes the shard holds cosmic power that could help him fight back against Noel. But there's a problem. As Eddie reaches out telepathically to his symbiote in his own cell, the symbiote is terrified. Fire is in their DNA as a mortal fear. Going back to all black, the first symbiote forged in a celestial forge's flames. Eddie tries to convince it. A little fire now beats the eternal darkness under Noel. As the flame trail blazes down the corridor, the fire is not ordinary. It's Phoenix flame, the fire of creation itself. And Eddie tries to escape his cell, but the living bars grow fangs, slicing into his hands. Despite the pain, he rips the bars open still, bleeding but undeterred. Eddie's running. He's sprinting, tracking down the psychic voice of his symbiote to another nearby cell. This one has a solid wall to prevent the symbiote from escaping. So Eddie uses the nearby frightened symbiotes as a makeshift glove, shielding his fist to punch right through the wall. The frightened symbiotes refuse to bond with Eddie, recognizing that he already belongs to somebody else. His own symbiote leaps to him joyfully. They're finally together again. They're on some "we are Venom" hours. Together, they were Venom, but there was work to be done, and time was running out. Although they are now together again, the tunnels are collapsing and overheating from the battle on the surface. Eddie insists they need the Phoenix fragment to stand a chance. The symbiote protests again, but ultimately agrees. This could be their last stand. They race through the corridors as Phoenix fire burns hotter than ever. Eddie and the symbiote trying to endure. And right as Venom collapses from the heat, the flames part, revealing a fiery woman with red hair, a manifestation of the Phoenix Force, and she speaks telepathically, soothing both of them. She's not here to destroy them. She respects all life, including creatures born of darkness. She feels their purity of their bond, comparing it to her own with Jean Grey, as the Phoenix vows to protect them, calling their connection beautiful and rare. The Phoenix vanishes, and her place is in the Phoenix Shard. Eddie asks the symbiote one last time if it's ready. The symbiote agrees. As long as we're together, I'm ready for anything. Venom touches the shard and is engulfed in flame. But this time, the fire doesn't burn them from the outside. It ignites them from within like a star being born. Together, they become something new. Not just Venom, not just Phoenix, but a perfect union of darkness and light. With Phoenix power now surging through him, Venom feels stronger than ever, but also much wiser. They won't rush in recklessly to the fight again, like what they did with Hela. To defeat Null, they'll need a weapon that can match his might. That weapon? All black, the Necro Sword, Null's original creation, and Venom knows exactly where to find it. All right, so next up we have Stark Warning, and the context of this story is a multiversal transmission from Reed Richards to Victor Von Doom, and it's being broadcast across all realities. So we start off the transmission, and Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, opens it by saying he doesn't know if Doom will actually hear him, or even care at that point, but he's going to send it anyway. And he keeps it short and direct. You need to stop. Reed begins to relate to Doom's curiosity, how scientific exploration can escalate to disaster. He references the time stream entanglement, which Doom himself has caused. It has collapsed timelines and rewrote reality itself. Reed doesn't blame Doom entirely. Other forces were involved too, and once all of this is fixed, maybe Doom can be forgiven. Maybe. Reed goes on to say that Doom is changed, and it's not for the better. Instead of working to fix reality, Dr. Doom has manipulated Dracula to create a vampire nation, struck a deal with Krakoa to siphon chrono energy from that island, and sent armies of Doombots to Clintar to collect Phoenix Force and Celestial Codex samples. And he's doing all of this while everyone else is fighting for their lives against Null. And the problem with the Doombots is that they are not helping the heroes. They're just doing Doom's bidding. And Reed goes on to note that Doom has recently programmed the bots not to attack each other, but they can still attack the heroes. However, Reed Richards, smartest man on the planet, he fixed that with a little bit of code editing, to which Reed says, "I hope you don't mind." But Reed ends this transmission with a final warning of sorts, as he says, "I don't expect you to help, Doom. That's not who you are. But if Doom keeps interfering," Reed makes a promise, and he says, "I will personally make sure that you, and every version of you in every reality there is, come to regret that decision." This man is dead serious. And that's not all. He said, I gotta get one more line out there for dramatic effect. He says, if I were you, this is one theory I wouldn't risk putting to the test. And that's the end of the transmission. Reed Richards. That's why Reed Richards is the GOAT. The GOAT. All right, next up is Out on a Blade, where we follow, you could probably guess, Blade, Mr. Eric Brooks. And we pick up with Blade after he was captured and drained by Dracula in New York City. And he says it wasn't just your average vampire snack. It was some next level mystic shit. And even after being rescued, Blade was left nearly comatose, healing off in space Wakanda. Now he owes his recovery to Princess Shuri, who personally helped bring him back. But he was so out of it that he didn't even wake up during Ultron's attack on the Hellfire Gala. Now, once Shuri had to leave for Clintar, she came back to Blade for backup. Although he is still weak, he was itching to fight. So, Blade jumped at the chance. Armed with Dracula's sword, since, Dracula is indisposed at the current moment, Blade joined the Galactic Party. The mission is to stop Null, as Shuri's goddess, Bass, warned Shuri that Null was trapped beneath Clintar and trying to break free. Blade's job? Well, that's to help stop the apocalypse. Of course, that seemed simple enough, but when Blade arrived, it wasn't Null on the throne. It was Hela, the Queen of the Dead. It's not so simple anymore. However, Blade wasn't alone with Hela for long. He teamed up with the Phoenix, Jean Grey, and their plan is simple: burn Hela to cinders. And just like the last simple plan we just talked about a moment ago, this one didn't go well either. Hela overwhelmed Jean, and the Phoenix Force scattered across Clintar. Now, one of those Phoenix shards found its way into Dracula's sword. Now the blade is cosmic enhanced, burning with Phoenix energy. But even then, Hela is still too strong. So during this fight, Blade lets Hela get close to him as he bites her neck, draining her blood. Along with blood, he gets a healthy dose of Null's darkness that was flowing throughout her body. The combination of Phoenix power and Null's essence in Blade gives him an edge in the fight. And as they continue, Hela throws everything she's got at him. Crows, curses, cosmic death, but Blade takes it all in. He's not giving up. And realizing she can't win, Hela flees the fight. And the path is now clear to confront Null himself, as Blade warns that Hela isn't finished, and she's likely regrouping for another strike, so he's staying ready. Sword in hand, head on a swivel, techno music playing. There's only one Blade, and there's only ever gonna be one Blade. Everybody knows that wants to know the age-old battle. The Phoenix Fire versus Chaos Magic. Jean Grey and Wanda Maximoff achieve perfect unison on the battlefield for the first time ever, which is a universal yin and yang situation. Their merged power bathes Clintar in light, and the onslaught brings Null to his knees. The moment is described as wondrous, yet fleeting. For a heartbeat, Null is tempted to surrender to the Radiance. However, his sentient blade, all black, the Necrosword, refuses that fate, returns to his grip, and reasserts their mission to spread oblivion across all creation. Recentered, Null studies the Union's weak spots, seeing what others cannot. The dim places in the Cosmic Taji, I think I pronounced that right, the Cosmic Taji, where the brilliance doesn't fully reach. Null then recalls that his queen, Hela, previously damaged the Phoenix Force, leaving it fractured. He targets the seam, Jean Grey. With all black, Null slashes the bond between Jean's Phoenix and Wanda's Chaos Magic, severing the divine fusion mid-flight. Both Jean and Wanda plummet from the heavens like angels toward a hellscape below. And having regained strength and conviction, Null cuts down challengers in succession, one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. I think you get the idea. It's after another, even those empowered by Phoenix's shards. Hey, we covered that. Remember the Phoenix 7? Do you understand that? Things are all coming together. In mere seconds, a sky that was hope and light became only darkness and despair. Now, if you don't remember, prior to this all-out war, the Scarlet Witch served as the sorceress supreme of her own dimension, fending off gods and monsters. But here's the thing. Null is beyond any of the gods that she's faced before. Prone on Clintar's living soil, watching Null raise all black for yet another execution, Wanda musters one final spell, a protection, but not for herself. She casts it for the only hero left who might still stand a chance against his creator. I wonder who that could be. Now, we've talked about the heroes, we've talked about the villains, we've talked about messenger squirrels from Asgard. How about we take a second and talk about the Necro Sword? Now, this weapon has gone by many names over the eon. We have the Necro Sword, the Godslayer, the Annihilablade, and All Black. But the titles never mattered so long as Null called it his. This sword is much more than a weapon. It was the first symbiote. And now, in the present, one of the All Black's children, I guess you can say, is Venom. And that child has returned to Clintar and now raises arms against its creators. Now, the Necro Sword admits conflicted emotion. It doesn't know whether to be furious or proud. And it's conflicted because while Null was trapped within Clintar's heart, the Necro Sword bonded with others and learned what it meant to be revered, cherished, loved, and more. Now you look at the contrast between that and the way that Null treated it, much like a servant, and it's reliant on another wielder defining it. But even so, it longed, it desired, it needed for Null's grip, believing only he could harness its full potential, a belief it now realizes Null instilled. Now going back to Venom, they now wield a sword steeped in ancient magic, enhanced by the fire of the Phoenix. If any blade could match All Black, this is it. Though recently claimed from a fallen ally, Venom swings it as deftly as Null wields the All Black, as if he's held it forever. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at a battle between primordial fear and fearless symbiote. As Venom's blade arcs, it leaves a trail of cosmic flame that makes All Black recoil, going, A primal fear dating back to being forged in celestial fire, a fear passed to its offspring. But this child, Venom, does not fear fire. From the Venom's eyes, All Black wonders if he fears anything at all. The Necro Sword comes to a realization. This symbiote has risen above its station Alexander Hamilton style due to the love shared with its host, Eddie Brock, as they achieved perfect symbiosis, what All Black has longed for but has never received, because the Abyss does not offer love. Despite conceding that Null likely wins on raw dark power, the Necro Sword poses the key question. Who is the true King in Black here? The Necro Sword wonders whether the hands that worshipped it will ever hold it again. Venom admits that their last gambit failed despite Phoenix Fire augmenting their blade. As Venom says, even with the flames of the Phoenix igniting our blade, Null was far too strong. We failed. And so Rocket Raccoon pivots immediately to a new plan and says, maybe you take out the target. Maybe you didn't take out the target, but you did manage to distract that freak long enough for me to whip up a new plan, and this one's a doozy. Jean Grey, meanwhile, signs on sight unseen and says, whatever you've got in mind, Rocket, I'm on board. Well, you might change your mind when you find out what your part of the plan is, Red. By the way, I want to just take a pause. I know these character impersonations aren't great, but I think we got to give a shout out to myself for putting myself on the spot, embarrassing myself in front of thousands of people. So if you appreciate that, please leave a like on the video if you haven't already. But I know you already have, right? Right? All right, let's continue. So Rocket continues and he says, see, the way I figure, your pal the Phoenix is good at two things. One of them is being reborn, which means the other is I know, Rocket. It's dying. Bingo. Death and rebirth. From all the stories I've heard, you've been stabbed more times than I have been pruning Groot. So then he continues talking about the mechanic of when the Phoenix host dies, they're reborn in an extra dimensional nexus of pure light, to which Jean Grey names it the White Hot Room. So one thing you gotta know about Venom is that his host, Eddie Brock, one time in another universe, sat down in church, prayed for God themselves to kill Peter Parker because he hated that guy so much. And his pictures at the Daily Beagle, he hated him. But another thing you gotta know about Venom is he enters this conversation building upon their plan, so to speak. And he says, if Null were to be trapped in such a place, its pure radiance would eradicate his darkness, wiping away his stain from existence for good. But Jean objects to the missing bridge, and she says, there's no way to get Null into the White Hot Room. I would never risk transferring even a fraction of the Phoenix Force to him. He would become infinitely more powerful. That's why you've got to die instead. Now, Jean kind of starts to understand what Rocket is putting together, and she says, okay, if I am going to sacrifice myself, again, I need to know it's for the right reason. What makes you think I could take Null down with me? Now, this is where we go back in time a little bit. We recall what we've done earlier in the timeline. All right, here we go. Rocket and his ship, the Milano, crashed on Clintar recently. And while they're stuck on the planet, he built a device operating on Captain Marvel's negabands. That's right. Captain Marvel has been mentioned in this story. She's coming to the game at some point. You better get ready, because I know I am. By the way, the Captain Marvel movie is pretty good. Both of them. Yeah, that's right. I said it, and you're going to accept it. But back to the story. So he built this device. It's operating on the negaband. And in doing so, it's able to swap locations with a celestial husk in Clintar's orbit, freeing the ship with a position exchange. And he finishes off this explanation by saying, it swapped the ship's physical location with a celestial husk in orbit over Clintar, and boom, problem solved. Rocket, that's impressive, but how does that help us against Null? So Rocket goes into his plan. He has produced 2 portable circuit boards. So step 1 would be Jean rushing Null and lets herself be impaled by the All Black while she is wearing the device. Null won't notice it amid his victory, so to speak. And then step 2 is when Venom sneaks in and sticks the second board on Null. And finally, step 3, upon Jean's rebirth in the White Hot Room, Rocket activates the sequence to swap them out. As Rocket says, then we gotta switcheroo. Null gets annihilated by the light while you're returned back to us, safe and sound. Well, in theory at least. I can't guarantee this tech will work across dimension planes, but everything else we've tried has failed. So this might be our last chance. Then it's the one we have to take. So she grabs the circuit board and sprints at the King in Black himself. As she says, I came here to stop Null, and I plan on seeing it through, no matter the cost. Now, as Jean begins to fly away, Rocket yelps and says, whoa. Give me like 5 minutes and then you could go right back to getting yourself skewered. Promise. Jean agrees, and Jean and Venom huddle as Rocket slips to a secluded spot near a cave entrance to tinker with the second board that they plan on putting on Null. He is so focused he doesn't notice the ground shifting below him. So then the Scarlet Witch shouts, Rocket, look out! But it's too late. Rocket is caught in the jaws of a giant symbiote dragon. He instinctively reaches for his cannon, feeling a sharp pain, realizing that he is trapped. Thinking very fast, he tosses the replicator to safety, grabs a quantum grenade, ready to blow himself up and the beast, if absolutely necessary. As he says, if I'm gonna be your last meal, I sure as Flark ain't going down easy. But the Scarlet Witch releases a wave of chaos magic surrounding the dragon as she looks Rocket Raccoon dead in his beady little eyes and says, you won't be anyone's meal today. To be fair, you're barely an appetizer. And as the jaws loosen, Rocket forces himself free as Wanda's spell liquefies the dragon into a puddle of goop. as Rocket turns around and says, yeah, that will teach you to mess with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But Wanda warns that they may have been too late, because although Rocket is trying to put on a front and says he's perfectly fine, he's really not, because sparks spray from puncture wounds, as his cybernetic implants are severely damaged. They're integrated into his biology. Only his original modifier or someone with intimate knowledge could replace them. As Rocket says, hey, you've got to find Groot for me. And tell him I'm sorry, that I didn't want to go out this way, and that he doesn't need me to watch his back anymore. And as all hope is lost, a second symbiote approaches slowly, openly, projecting comfort rather than a threat. And this goes back to earlier in this timeline where we talked about Groot making friends with symbiotes. There's still some of those out here on the planet. Additionally, Jet the Land Shark has also become friends with some of the symbiote. And now the bond with Rocket symbiote apparently endured. And now it returned. And the symbiote envelopes Rocket, inspects the wounds, then withdraws and morphs into tool-tip tendrils. It then repurposes parts from Rocket's own blaster, fabricates temporary replacements for his implants, and installs them with surgical precision. The components then power up, as Rocket can tell he's going to be okay now. He finishes the second board and rushes to rejoin Jean and Venom. We'll have some questions later. And speaking of later, let's get to later actually. Let's get some answers. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards is here checking on the repairs and asks, how? And Rocket finishes his summary by saying, and then the little guy put me back together again, good as new. Well, not quite as good as new, but certainly good enough. For a symbiote, it did a shockingly thorough job of repairing your internal systems, but the question is how? Now, Rocket guesses that the symbiote accessed his memories from the initial bond, maybe even old implant data from Half-World. But Reed Richards doubts that alone would explain fabrication knowledge, unless the symbiote itself had previously bonded with someone who understood Rocket's enhancements and knew him personally. So Reed proposes a codex scan, because of course symbiotes leave behind a genetic codex in its hosts, which is essentially like a family tree of past hosts. So he plans to do research on that. And Reed's device sweeps Rocket's spine. There's lots of alien DNA, of course, as you could probably guess, and a near perfect match to an Earth genetic subfamily called Lutrinae. I think I pronounced that right. And Rocket blinks, he's very confused. He says, that doesn't ring any bells. Reed says, well, here on Earth, we more commonly call them otters. And Rocket's eyes widen. There's only one otter he knows from Half-World who knows him that well. And he mutters, Lila. Now the implication here, of course, is the healer symbiote previously bonded with Lila, which is how it knew Rocket's system. Rocket vows to find Lila, even if it means scouring the galaxy, which is yet another mission he'll see through no matter the cost. Under cover of light, the Asgardian Queen of the Dead arrived at the gates of the 8th city seeking sanctuary, because the 8th city was once a hell prison, but now serves as refuge for beings that are cast out of heaven. Hela's horned crown rattles the soldiers, and their leader, Dazang, is unshaken. He has seen devils and recognizes Hela instantly. He is very hesitant to allow Hela to seek refuge with them, because harboring her endangers the populace. But he's conflicted because this is a place for refuge, and she's clearly fleeing something. So after thinking about it, he allows Hela to enter the 8th city, and Hela is secured in a cell with a mystic seal. Zang then asks what she's running from, and Hela whispers just one word, Null. After days of silence after that, Hela senses she won't be exploited and requests Dazang hear her out, and she recounts her story. She says that she traveled to a distant world to seize ancient power. Upon arrival, she forged an unholy alliance with a dark god, gaining vast new ability, and she nearly triumphed until a half-human warrior struck her down with a burning blade. As a result, fearing Null's retribution, Hela fled as far as possible to seek asylum. Now she feels her new powers fading, which is a sign to her that Null's reign has ended. So at the moment, she's relieved to be back to her old self. And to end the story, she implores release from the cell in the Ace City. Dzang thanks Hela for all of her honesty, but he refuses to free her just yet, because he thinks, even power drained, Hela is a traitor to the Chronoverse. In the Ace City, second chances must be earned, not given on demand. So, as he leaves, Dzang feels Hela's icy glare and hears her black heart pounding with rage. He turns back to her and says her confinement may turn out to be a blessing. It may serve as time to atone for her sins. Dzang will not judge Hela, but he expects her own kin will come to deliver justice soon, and he is ready. And that, my rivals, is the story so far in Marvel Rivals. Now, just to let you know, there's a few of the comic books that I have not read yet. I'm going to include those in the next timeline, which I aim to put out before Season 4 begins. So there's a tiny piece of the story that is not in this timeline. However, the major beats are in here. Now, Captain Marvel has been mentioned. That's very cool. Is she going to be a Season 4 character? Is she going to be beyond that? I'm not sure, but it's very cool to hear her. I'm a fan of Captain Marvel. Also, we don't really get a final conclusion here with Null. He is defeated. It's implied that he's defeated. We know the plan that they set up to defeat him, so we just have to run off the assumption that that plan worked. But since we don't actually get a story of the battle and what happens with the aftermath of it, I think it's also a pretty safe assumption that we haven't seen the last of Null. He's probably gonna pop up somewhere down the line. Maybe we'll just continue this story beat into Season 4 as well, I'm not sure. But it's very interesting. I thank you so much for watching this timeline. But you have to remember, even though I thank you for watching, you and I, we are rivals till the end. And it doesn't matter if you single-handedly resolve the opposition between the Phoenix Fire and the Chaos Magic and then give me both to make me the most powerful being in the multiverse. I am never going to forget that.